2022 F1 esports season was full of action.
It's the final lap of this 2022 F1 esports season.
We saw some great overtaking.
We've got drama on the opening lap, and Thomas Ronhard has the inside line. Thomas Ronhard trying to win his first esports race today.
We had 6 winners from 5 different teams.
Lucas Blakely wins the F1 esports. Nicholas Longe wins the F1 esports Japanese Grand Prix. Frederik Rasmussen, though, for the second time, will take a victory in F1 esports. But Lucas Blakely, take a bow. You're champion of 2022.
But who will have what it takes
to be the 2023 F1 esports champion?
Welcome to Event 3 of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. We are back. I'm Mariana Bravo. I'm going to be hosting you throughout this event. But of course, I am not alone. We have some introductions to do, some that you will be familiar with. I'm joined once again by our fantastic team of casters. We have with us Hayden Gullis and George Morgan. And you will see a special guest is joining us for Event 3, Marcel Kiefer. Marcel, welcome to the team. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Great. Happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing with us.
So today I will be taking over an expert analysis role, and I will also talk to the drivers in a more like laid-back area where we just have like a little podcast like Max Verstappen after the races and yeah, have a little bit of fun.
Well, I can't wait to see how it goes, and we're very grateful to have you on the team. We're going to have a lot of fun. And guys, Hayden, George, we're back.
Yep.
Lots of fun ahead of us. Event 2 delivered lots of action. How are you feeling for Event 3?
Oh, I'm absolutely buzzing. Event 2 was amazing. Some great action throughout the field, lots of overtaking. And with a lot more on the line this time around in Event 3, I'm sure that is just going to be heightened.
George, I know you're very excited to be back.
Very, very excited. I think off the back of what we saw, I think we could be on the cusp of seeing history in the making. I mean, Frederik Rasmussen still with a little bit of work to do, but hey, the groundwork is in place. And some of the other names that are also part of this series, also very fascinating to look at as well. We're going to be in for a corker.
Event 2 was a very busy one, 6 races across 3 days, and of course the qualifying sessions. Let's have a little look at how everything went down in Event 2.
Major job for Fasti, who will go up to the line. He takes P3, but Frederik Rasmussen, 13 races now, unlucky number, maybe for some, not for the Great Dane. Road 10 they go, wheel to wheel, they make contact, but it's Alfie Butcher, the Challengers champion, a debut victory here for the young man. Incredible, what a performance. The 2-time champion rises once again for the first time this season. It's another race win. It's 10 race wins in F1 Sim Racing history for Jarno Opmeer. Barry Burman for the lead of the race, coming through the final few corners. What a way to win at Spa, but Blakely coming back. He's not letting it go. Contact as they make their way out. But for the second time here in Belgium, it's Barry Burman who takes a sensational victory.
And there we go, Thomas Ronhard, not his day today, massively upset with that one. Nicholas Longe, he did select the dry tyres, but the game gave him the inters, so he's not going to be happy about that one. Really unfortunate for Nicholas Longe, and I'm sure Ferrari will be massively, massively annoyed with that.
Frederik Rasmussen getting the jettison out of these final corners now. He's going to look to round turn 13, very soon to be turn 14 alike. The Red Bull giving him wings once again, and it's double Dutch Grand Prix delight for Frederik Rasmussen. The Great Dane scores a second victory of the season. Long game. I mean, just look at that. It almost breaks your heart to see it, really. The Great Dane ushers in the overspeed working for him. Barry Burman knows he's in trouble. Rasmussen's got him. It's going to round the final corner. It's a magical number 3 for Frederik Rasmussen. He wins the United States Grand Prix.
Well, that was very, very exciting. Let's see how the drivers and team standings look after Event 2. Guys, Frederik Rasmussen coming in, leading the championship. I don't want to jinx anything, but he must be feeling good about that, right?
Certainly. I mean, it was very close in the first few races in Event 2, but then the consistency from Freddie just shone, and he was able to step away from the rest of the field. And maybe that's a little bit of fatigue coming into this hectic schedule, that he's just able to excel in these conditions, and nothing really seems to break him.
Marcel, from a driver perspective, what is it like when you know that the potential is there? How do you stay calm and stay under control?
Honestly, I don't think you can really stay calm or under control. You're just trying to do your best. You're practicing at home, you're working with the team, you're analyzing data, and you're just trying to do your best, because in the end, it doesn't matter. Anything you do at home, it all just comes down to what happens today, tomorrow, and in the next few days. So I know there's a lot of pressure on Freddie, and I've been teammates with him for a long time, so he was never really in that position with such a big point gap to P2. I think the first time he was in the lead was actually in 2020 against David Tunizza. And that was before the final race. And ever since then, I don't think he was actually leading at this point of the championship. And now he has such a big gap. Also, his teammate is very strong. Josh is doing a great job to support him. But then we have a really strong lineup at Mercedes. We have the youngster Jake, we have Danny, we have Jano. Jano, anyways, always up there. Danny made a great step over the last few years. And we also have Ferrari there with a super strong lineup of Longway and Bormann. So yeah, exciting time for this event. And I think there's still going to be a major shuffle, especially at Vegas.
I can't wait to see how it unfolds. As we can see from the constructors' standings there, George, still all to play for. It's not just about these drivers' standings, is it?
No, it takes two to tango, and obviously that means both teammates need to score points. I think Frederik Rasmussen's got the benefit of having someone like Josh Ido, who is proven to score decent points, and he's going to be relying on him heavily, much like Mercedes, who got both Otmir and Benham as well. You know, you've got to work together, try and advance your cause. I mean, Red Bull know that better than anybody. You guys have got more Constructors' Championships than anybody through the course of F1 sim racing historically. So, you know, Marcel partnering Freddie over those periods of time. But yeah, no, it's going to be all about the team aura, team ethic. Yeah.
Lots of talk about Freddie, but let's have a look at some of our other race winners from Event 2 as well, because we had a real mix-up, didn't we? We can see here Thomas Ronhaar, Frederik Rasmussen, as we've mentioned, Alfie Butcher, Jarno Otmir, Barry Bormand. It was exciting. Alfie Butcher especially getting that win. That was something special, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's been fantastic in qualifying, and the inexperience has kind of showed a little bit so far this season. It's a whole new environment. League racing is something completely different. You're at home, you're comfortable, but coming here, there's cameras, there's light shining, you've got all these elements that are going to be distracting. But it was good for him to get that first race win, because it's always going to be plaguing on your mind. Every time one slips away from you, the pressure is piled on top every single time you're put in that position. So it's good for him to get that first win of the season. And, you know, I'm sure he's certainly got the pace to get some more this season. And it'll be great for him to really show how good he is.
And Barry Bormand there as well. Marcel, we saw a lot of emotion from the Ferrari camp last time out, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, especially with Nico, I felt very, very heartbroken. I was sitting at home, but I saw it, and I was just thinking,
was painful.
Yeah, because it was no fault of his own, and he was doing such an amazing job, and the whole Ferrari team, how they managed it until the point when it actually happened, it looked like an easy 1-2 for them, and then it just all fell apart, and it is all a woulda, coulda, but if that would have turned out differently, then maybe at the moment Ferrari would be leading the championship, and maybe Barry would actually be way closer to Freddie. So it's these tiny margins where it really matters, and in the end, it was just crazy to see, and I think we will see a lot more to come in the next few days.
Difficult pill to swallow for the Ferrari team, but our most recent winner, Frederik Rasmussen, we were able to hear a little bit from him. Let's hear what he had to say.
Red Bull giving him wings once again, and it's double Dutch Grand Prix delight for Frederik Rasmussen. The Great Dane scores a second victory of the season. It's going to round the final corner. It's a magical number 3 for Frederik Rasmussen. He wins the United States Grand Prix.
So I started 2013 on Gran Turismo on the PlayStation, just playing with a controller, and then I was saving up to buy a steering wheel, and then I got the steering wheel and I saved up even more to play some iRacing, and then I got good at iRacing, joined the team in like 2017, and then won the GT3 Championship 2017. I don't prepare mentally or physically, I just practice a lot, get lots of laps in, so I can feel confident for the event.
Frederik Rasmussen, 13 races now, unlucky number, maybe for some, not for the Great Dane.
You just have to work really hard, put many hours in, improve all the time.
Try to find the optimal settings.
That's what I did anyway. I'm just treating it like a job, so I do my hours and then the rest is free time for whatever I want. I don't have any other hobbies really.
Frederik Rasmussen, though, for the second time in 2022, will take a victory in F1 Esports. He wins at Abu Dhabi.
Oh, he's going to get there. Frederik Rasmussen brilliantly wins in Belgium, and Danny Beresne with a late move to take second place out of nowhere.
Lovely little piece there from Freddie, and some of his driver stats up on the screen there too. It feels like it's coming, but as I said, I do not want to jinx anything. But let's turn our attention now to Event 3. Another busy one coming up. We start with Mexico City and Brazil. Two really exciting venues.
Yeah, some great tracks. Mexico, very difficult one when we're going to be getting into qualifying because track limits are so important there. You've really got to put the car over the corners as much as possible, cut them to gain as much time, but a little bit too far. Lap time over and you could be out in Q1. So it's going to be very, very difficult. And Brazil, what a fantastic circuit to go to as well.
Yeah, I agree with Hayden. I think in terms of what we've got for Event 3, you couldn't have a better lineup of races to come. We've got some that we haven't even visited over the course of the championship, dating all the way back since 2017. So I'm really excited for what's to come. I think what's really interesting, heading back to Mexico, obviously if we remember last season, Rasmussen and Ronhaar came together.
Yeah. Indeed. Marcel, what are some of the things we should keep an eye out for when we come to Mexico and Brazil qualifying?
I mean, Mexico is very, very challenging because you actually have to attack the curbs, especially in Sector 1 a lot, and also Sector 2. You need to really perfect the line. You need to have an entry where you are staying as wide as possible while still cutting on the inside as much as you can. And yeah, so it's all about these little inputs of the drivers that make a huge difference over such a short lap, because both tracks are like go-kart tracks. The lap times are not long. It's a very short track and still a lot of corners. So there's room for mistakes, but if you do one mistake, it's probably already over for pole. So you have to really go for that perfection, and each driver knows it. So there's a lot of pressure, and with what's on the line, it's just getting harder and harder. So they need to keep within the track limits while still trying to push the car as hard as they can.
Ooh, I can't wait to see how it unfolds. And as you saw on the schedule there, tomorrow we will be taking a visit to Las Vegas and to Qatar. First time that we will be visiting those two tracks. That's an interesting challenge, isn't it?
I can't wait, mainly for the strip in Vegas, because I've seen it in league racing where these guys will be like 4 wide going down there, so close, bumping with each other, just trying to get track position. And it's all really going to come down to who's in second, third, fourth going into that strip on the last lap. That's who's going to take the race win. If you're leading that train, you're going to be overtaken just a sitting duck for everybody. So I'm very excited for that race.
I am too, but we're not there just yet. We've got to keep our focus on it today. But before we get into qualifying for Mexico City, let's have a little run through on how things are set up in this tournament, starting with the prize pool. So we have a prize pool of $700,000 that is up for grabs. That is what these guys are all playing for. It is split amongst the top scoring teams and drivers. Very exciting. That's not a little bit of money that they're playing with there. As you can see on the screen, first place down to fifth being awarded money, and the same with the team championship as well. So that's why this means so much for these teams and drivers. This is serious. Let's also have a look at how points are awarded. It is a familiar sort of points awarding system to Formula One. We get points from first place down to 10th, starting with 25 points for the first place, all the way down to 1 point for 10th place. Also a point for the fastest lap, providing you finish in the top 10. And unlike Formula One, you also get a point for pole position. Every single point counts. That's what we can take from that, right? And now that we can see what they're playing for, we understand why this means quite so much to these drivers, right, George?
Yeah, it's the narrow margins that count, especially when you come up to the final day. You've got one race to go. it can make or break your championship. And especially when you've got the array of prize money that these teams have on offer, all the way from P1 down to the back end of the grid, it could be the difference between winning, say, another 25,000 or another 50,000 or whatever. That is how close things really are. So, you know, they really have to give it all. Every point, like you say, counts. You've got to be in it to win it.
Marcel, give us a little bit of insight on what the drivers will be thinking and feeling right now as we're in those final few minutes before you get qualifying underway.
Honestly, all of them are just thinking, let's get going. Because like the longer you have to wait, the more intense it becomes, because you feel all of these emotions in your stomach. You have these thoughts, like some of the drivers have doubts, some have just fear because they know what's on the line, some have nothing to lose, so they're just like, okay, I will try my best. But in the end, it's all the same for them. Like, they're all very, very excited to get going, and they just want the session to get underway. And then, yeah, we will see how it turns out, especially with the weather chaos that we've seen over the last few races.
A lot of weather chaos, that's a good way to put it. Who are you looking out for in this session, each of you, in terms of teams or drivers?
I think qualifying has got to be the man of the moment in qualifying, and that's Alfie Butcher. His qualifying pace has been so predominant. He's always been up at the forefront as well. So I'm looking over at the Haas team and I'm looking at him.
George?
I think I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the Ferraris. I think off the basis of them looking to bounce back after a difficult event 2, having the win essentially taken from their grasp at both Zandvoort and Spa. Obviously, Barry obviously took the victory, but then at Zandvoort, it was Longuet who lost out. And then, as a consequence, Barry lost out later on as well, and Rasmussen took it. So I'm intrigued to see how the prancing horses return here.
Oh, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They're just behind us. We have a very good view of that team in particular. And Marcel, who are you keeping an eye out for?
Honestly, over the last few years, there has been a lot of development on Mexico. Initially, it was Freddy and Jano that were super strong, so I still have my money on them. But at the same time, I know how quick Nico is, and Barry is incredible over one lap, probably one of the quickest. Then we have the new talents like Alfie. We have Thomas since last year, who's also immediately showed what he can do. And then we had an interesting incident in the Mexico race too. But we are in quali, so let's not talk about that. But yeah, I would say I actually think Freddy gets it. I think Freddy will get pole.
Yeah? I love this. Marcel's straight in with the predictions. That's what I'm here for. Okay, I think it's time for me to hand over to you guys to take this away, and I will be back when qualifying is done and we find out who is sitting on pole. Get ready, guys. This is qualifying at Mexico City.
Yes, thank you very much, Ariana. Bravo. Thank you for getting us kicked off, ready for the start of this event 3. I tell you what, we're in for a treat, Hayden Gullis, because we have got 5 tremendous tracks lying in wait to close out this title. It all starts here at at Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. 17 turns opened back on the 20th of November 1959 after breaking ground earlier on in that year. But as you can see, a major DRS straight heading down through towards turn 1, a huge opportunity for overtaking, but you've got a mixture of straight line speed sections, but a very technical sector 2 into sector 3, Hayden.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be so important in this qualifying session. So many areas around this track where you can make a small error and your lap is completely over. You know, you're talking about turn 1, 2 and 3. You've really got to cut the curbs as much as possible to gain so much time. But then the S's section, there's so much runoff. It's not like there's grass on the inside that, you know, gives you that bit of fear to not use that area. No, instead it's all runoff, so you can really attack those corners and gain as much lap time as possible. But as we said, you go a little bit too far, lap time done, you've got to get back into the pits, and it could cost you getting knocked out in Q1.
It definitely can. And we spoke about fine margins. Fine margins are the essence of F1 sim racing as we now await the cars to make their way out on track. In terms of the current conditions, light cloud across the circuit. Now, if you remember, last event, we had deluge pretty much right through the course of the event. So the drivers had to battle not only mixed conditions, but just wet conditions in the first place. They can be very tricky to manage.
Yeah, certainly. No groans around the studio for this qualifying session. It is going to be dry, and it means that we're going to be able to see some great laps from these drivers. And that's what we love to see, because Mexico is a track, Marcel talked about it, it's a go-karting track. It's a very short lap time, and because it's a short lap time, it means that our times between all the drivers are going to be so small throughout the whole entire field, all the way from first down to 20th, meaning a small error. And that could just be, just a little compromise into a corner, missing the apex by a few margins. And that could be the difference between getting into Q2 and getting knocked out of Q1. As you can see right now, a lot of drivers on the intermediate tyres. If you are new to F1 sim racing, first of all, welcome aboard. you're in for a lot of excitement, especially in this qualifying session. You might be wondering, why are all the drivers on intermediates? It doesn't look like it's raining out on track. Is there something wrong with the graphics? No, not at all. Everything looks beautiful out on track. It is sunny, it is shining, but the intermediate tyres are on so that the drivers can just get prepared ahead of this session. This is the first time that these guys are going to be running on these rigs in an actual, full-on session. So they're just making sure that all of their equipment is working, making sure everything is working how it should be, the wheel, the pedals, they've got no issues there. But also, a few of them that we spoke to in Event 2, they like to just have that delta time. They like to set a lap just so that they have something to compare it to. And obviously, the soft tyres, the lap time's going to be so much better. But it's just nice mentally to have that green in the top right-hand corner of your screen so you know you're improving, so you can keep on pushing.
Yeah, but it's like a bar, isn't it? You've got to try and raise the bar. But first of all, you need a bar set to begin with. So that's exactly what these drivers are trying to lay down, just to instill somewhat of a foundation for when you then put the slick tyres on. As we now see the Kick F1 team returning with Thomas Ronhaas, and we'll have not necessarily fond memories of a trip round here last time around after coming together with Frederik Rasmussen last season. Speak of the devil, has left the session. And they've got a technical crew currently around his rig. So already the frailty is starting to show. This is not the time, Freddie.
This is probably the only reason why you would look at why Frederik Rasmussen could not win this championship as how it's going so far. And that would be technical issues for the driver, because his consistency has just been incredible throughout this season so far, especially as I talk about with this hectic schedule. We had 6 races last time. We got 5 races this time. It is a lot for the drivers to be getting on with, as Thomas Ronhaas out on track on those intermediates. Currently going fastest, but of course we're going to be seeing drivers improve later on when they get onto the soft tyres. Frederik Rasmussen still not into the session yet. We'll be waiting for confirmation if the session will be restarted, or will they get Freddie back in, or will Freddie potentially miss out because of it? He's got the pace and he's not missing out on too much at the moment, because there are drivers doing those intermediate runs. They don't want to waste sets of soft tyres early on in this session, because the cars are all equal in F1 sim racing. So there's no case of your usual backmarker teams having to really burn in the early stages of Q1 just to make Q2 or Q3. Everybody has the car capable to get into Q3. It's all down to how quick the driver is.
It is, absolutely. As Thomas Ronhaas now heads towards the line of 1:19.278. Not necessarily representative, obviously being on intermediate tyres, but he has laid that time down nonetheless. Currently fastest of the intermediate runners as well, with Danny Berejnay, a 1:19.514. Patrick Schipos also crossing the line and setting a 1:19.822. If we want to talk about consistency over the last few years, we can put Frederik Rasmussen here in that column, given the fact that he finished P3 twice consecutively in 2020 and 2021. But the one major consistent element is the fact that Jarno Opmeer, the Flying Dutchman, has won every time in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship at this very circuit. So maybe he's the one to watch, Hayden.
That's going to give you a lot of confidence going into this event. Of course, a lot of drivers still mathematically within a chance of competing for this championship still. But if you're looking at the top 3, with the lead that Freddie has, realistically, it's only those top 3 drivers that have the best shot, and Jarno Opmeer is one of them. So to kickstart Event 3 with a strong performance, to try and rein back in Frederik Rasmussen, is going to be vital. And, going to a track where he is statistically so strong at, that's going to really bode well for his confidence. As you can see on your screen, Freddie's back. We don't have to worry anymore, and he's going out on some intermediate runs. As the track is so short, it gives you a lot more time between your qualifying runs, whereas if you go to like a Spa, for example, you don't have that much time. You need to really perfect when you go out on track, whereas now, it's a short lap time. Freddie can get back around, and of course, he's just been disconnected, so he's going to want to make sure that everything is working fine now he's back in the lobby.
Yeah, 1-2, Freddie's coming for you. Indeed, he's now out on track with the intermediate tyres on. So he will get a run on the green banded tyre to at least lay down somewhat of a foundation, which will give him an opportunity then to build heading through the rest of the session. We've still got 12 minutes and 15 of the realm to go as we tick on through. The Dane now heading through the double right-handers in his famed Red Bull. 3 wins so far this campaign, has actually matched his best results in terms of number of wins through a season. He's already equaled his best season off the back of Event 2 alone. So no, you have to wonder where he's going to be after Event 3, Hayden.
Certainly so. I mean, if he carries on the form that he's carried over, especially at the end of Event 2, because Event 2 was very much in the mix quite early on. We had, so many different race winners. I think there's 5 different race winners in the first 5 races. But then the last couple, Freddie just dominated, and he really came out of the blocks and extended that championship lead. As he comes into the pit lane now, going to be getting on a set of soft tyres, ready to go for a fast lap later on in this session. All the drivers in the pit lane at the moment, but yeah, Freddie looking very strong at the moment, and it's all up to the other drivers. Who can catch him?
Yeah. Everything seems a lot more content over at Freddie's area at the moment. Obviously, after that little technical hitch, he's now back and on circuit and has just registered his intermediate tyre time. But it's now all down to this, with 11 minutes on the clock. The drivers will wait for the opportune moment to venture out on track. The nerves might be settling in just a little bit. There has been a reasonable break since Event 2. They would have had all their planned process preparation put in with their teams, no less. And there's a few returning engineers that I can see. I already bumped into Seb Kowalski, who's returned for the Kick F1 sim racing team. So they'll be looking to harbour his expertise for Thomas Ronhart and Brendan Lee, who has already threatened to throw bounties at us this weekend, Aidan.
Yeah, he had a big talk at the end of Event 2. I think the exhaustion of the event kind of got to him, and I don't even think he knew what he was talking about at the end of that event, but he's threatened us already that if we say anything bad about him, he's got some chocolates ready and he will be launching them. But he looks very relaxed at the moment. And you spoke about the break that we've had since Event 2 and Event 2, but for these drivers, they've not really had a break at all.
No.
For these drivers, the preparation is so important, and they would have had a jam-packed schedule to make sure they are fully prepared for Event 3, because, you know, if you don't prepare enough, then you're just going to be found out very quickly in these scenarios, because the grid is so close together. We saw it, for example, you know, Will Lewis had to jump in last minute for Alvaro Carreton because he was ill, and he was off the pace. You know, I don't think it's harsh to say that, because he didn't have that preparation time, because he wasn't expected to jump into the seat.
Yeah, and it lays down the importance as well of how integral that third driver role really is. Yeah. In all honesty, might be even more vital than in real life in many senses, because there is such a high turnover of drivers, you know, where you go from, you know, one consistent driver right through the course of the championship. You might have a second one. For instance, you've got Danny Berejnay and Jake Benham. They rotate those drivers, you know, usually day on day. So, you know, Danny might do, well, he'll have to do the full day today. And then Jake will more than likely, if they decide to, do the whole
and then
run
Danny's
tomorrow.
In for the final race in Event 3. So, and it is interesting to see the difference between teams. You've got Ferrari, who have stuck with the same lineup. Red Bull as well, also stuck with the same lineup. But Mercedes like to change it, and it's interesting that both strategies are working for both teams. All three of those teams up at the top, fighting for the championship. It's really about making sure you have the strongest roster, especially when you've got so many races. We're watching Danny Berejnay warm up and get ready, and he will be one of the first drivers to set a fastest lap in this session. Right now, you're wondering, why is he holding the brake and the throttle at the same time? That is to build up tyre temperature. If you start weaving to build up tyre temperature, you're not really going to do it that quickly, but you're also going to add tyre wear, which you don't want. If you hold the brake and you hold the throttle, it builds up the brake temperature, which then builds up the internal tyre temperature and gets your tyres ready for the qualifying lap.
Yeah, Danny Berejnay coming into Event 3. 5 wins under his belt through his entire F1 sim racing career. 15 podiums and 8 pole positions. So he's got form where it comes to nestling in rapid lap times, and he's already a proven entity already this season. Both he and Jarno Opmeer pulled off a truly dazzling display back at Spa-Francorchamps, working as a team, ascending Mercedes from the bottom 10 up well within the top 10. And then, of course, Opmeer would go on to take victory in that same day back at Silverstone in truly gargantuan fashion. As now Berejnay makes his way through the first sector, he'll head out down towards the semi-straight, not necessarily as long as the home straight, but still enough for DRS, heading through towards turn 4, and he'll begin his run through sector 2. Very important to hit, certainly hook this sector up here, Hayden.
Danny Berejnay, he's going to be getting our qualifying session underway as he heads into the hairpin. A double apex corner, but you want to hit both of them and then get back on the throttle, rise up through the gears and get the car over to the right for this incredible section through the S's. Ride the curbs as much as possible, but do not go over those white lines as you will invalidate. I feel like Danny Berejnay is a little bit cautious with those white lines, just wants to get that banker lap in. DRS now activated once again for the third DRS zone around this circuit. Hard on the brakes, then throw it into the stadium section. A very tricky section. Not a lot of grip around here. Gets the car over to the right to really maximize the speed through this stadium section. He's going purple at the moment. First driver on the soft tyres. tyres through the final corner. We'll get back on the throttle, then get it nice and tight to the inside, to the pit wall, across the line, and we'll get us started with a 1:15.043.
Yeah, good banker to kick things off as well. Barry Brumand as well coming through the final corner in his own right. Goes second fastest, a 1:15.110 listed on the screen as now his teammate jumps him into second. This time Nicholas Longuet with a 1:15.082. Here comes Wilson Hughes. Really tight to the inside as well. Once again, managing to go fifth fastest for a bit. Too Donoso, incidentally, going fourth fastest. Patrick Schipos now moves up to sixth after nestling in an initial Inter's lap. It's now a soft tyre time of a 1:15.398. I know that Alpine have been going to work to try and improve their positioning. It's now Ismail Fassi, who certainly lit us all alight in Event 2. He's now dropped to fifth because Jarno Opmeer ascends to third. In comes Tom Manley, also another talented young rookie. He's now sixth fastest. In comes Lucas Blakely, reigning champion, in seventh place. Jed Norgrove, who's impressed many as well. He now moves up to ninth. We got Alfie Butcher, who now moves up to second with a 1:15.047. Here comes Thomas Ronhart, who, like I said, not necessarily fond memories last season of this particular track at Mexico City. Yellow flags will not certainly concern him right now, though, as he makes his way out to the final corner at the Peraltada, to the inside, and goes third fastest. A great return so far for Thomas Ronhart. Of course, it's not necessarily to the nitty-gritty of pole times just yet, but in terms of mentality, that's where you want to be, because he didn't have it easy in Event 2, Hayden.
No, his qualifying pace is still very, very strong. We all know that, but in the races, a few of them just kind of fell away from him. It looks like Alvaro Carreton must have invalidated on his lap. The only driver not to have set a lap time. Interesting, Danny Beresne, first driver to set the lap time, but still fastest. Very close up at the front between himself and Frederik Rasmussen. Only 4 thousandths of a second separating those two. And then you've got Thomas Ronhart, a 1,000th behind Freddie. So it's going to be so close in this qualifying session. I cannot wait. Q3 is going to really ramp up, and this is going to get very, very exciting. Jarno Opmeer, you say he runs strong around here. He's still doing well. 6th position at the moment. 600ths off of the top spot, but it's very close down at the bottom. You know, one correction of a mistake that a driver could have had, and they could easily find a 10th of time. And a 10th of time can really rise up the field. But currently in that danger zone, we've got Pedreno, we've got Wilson Hughes, Brendan Lee, Patrick Schipos, John Evans, and of course Alvaro Carreton, who is yet to set a lap.
John Evans, of course, looking to score his first points in his F1 sim racing career. Actually went close in quali on a few occasions to breaking into the top 10. I think at Spa he managed to start P11. So he has got the potential to do just that. He did very well at COTA as well. We went to Texas. We'll be looking to try and bring back some of that form that he had back then here in qualifying. But it's always important when you come down to those final minutes and you do your last runs of a particular session. There are the Mercedes pair, Danny Berejnay at the head of the order right now. The gap minute, as you alluded to as well, Hayden. And if we look across that top 10, and if you take into account the top 8, 81 thousandths between them, all the way from the top to P8, where Ismail Fassi currently sits. But if you want to really illustrate how tight this truly is, look at the top 3. I mean, you've got 4,000 separating Danny Berejnay and Freddie Rasmussen. You go down to third place with Thomas Ronhart, 5,000.
And that's what we love to see about F1 sim racing. That's why we enjoy it so much, because the lap times are so close between all of these drivers, and it all comes down to who can handle the pressure on the day, who can come up with that perfect lap. That's what it's all about. It is all about perfection. And if you are just a little bit off perfection, you're going to be, sadly, further down the field. Our reigning champion, Lucas Blakely, down in P11. He's safe at the moment, but you know, he will be worried about those other drivers further down the field. Would definitely need to go out again. I'm looking at those guys at the front. Will they risk it? And Thomas Ronhart and Alfie Butcher have decided to do so. They have decided that they don't want to do any more in this Q1 session. They think their lap times are good enough, and they will see themselves into Q2, as has Nicholas Longuet as well. They're deciding to be nice and chill. Danny Beresne is looking over at us. He's very comfortable at the moment, currently leading and at the top. I'm sure he's going to do something similar as well. Looking at the time on the clock, there's still 2 minutes 15 remaining, so there's still plenty of time for those drivers who are in the pit to still go out on that outlap and still be able to build up their tyre temps. As we're getting a replay now, George, what happened here?
Well, Danny Berejnay coming through the final corner, of course, coming to an end on this particular lap. This is, in fact, the lap that would send him fastest and put him to the top of the timing tower. And he'll be looking to go out. Well, he probably won't be looking to go out should obviously follow in trend with what Thomas Ronhart, Alfie Butcher and Nicholas Longe have done. Frederik Rasmussen as well, if you take that into account. And if it is gospel, he'll be safe in P2 as well. But we have got every car from P7 down. Of course, Alvaro Carreton, the only car not to set a valid lap time on the board. So huge pressure, high stakes on the realms of Alvaro Carreton, because he hasn't even got a delta to measure against.
No, certainly not. And that is going to be difficult because you just want to see, you want it to be green. It helps mentally to get yourself prepared over the course of the lap. As we're watching Wilson Hughes, he's going to be the first driver. A really large gap between him and the rest of the field. All the other drivers in the pit lane, Danny Beresne, Frederik Rasmussen and Jona Watmir, they're also not going to go out, so they think that they are comfortable. Here we go. Wilson Hughes, can he get himself out of that drop zone? Can he get himself into Q2? Let's find out. Really wide on the entry to the start-finish straight to maximise the straight line speed off this corner. Already just a little bit down, 1/100th of a second off of his best lap time so far as he heads down into turn 1. Hard on the brakes at the 100-metre board. Just clip the apex of turn 1, then you really want to ride over the curb of turn 2 and just touch the apex of turn 3. Some of those curbs, you just get a little bit too aggressive with them. It's going to unsettle the car and you're going to lose a lot of lap time. But he's improving. 4/100ths of a second up on his lap time. Now into the next chicane, turn 4. Really throw the car over to the left to set up turn 5 and use all of the exit curb on the outside to set yourself up now for the double hairpin through the right and tidy on the exit, but losing a little bit of time, but a much better exit than last time. It gains him time on his previous lap, 3/100ths up. Now through the S's. Now you've got to be really aggressive, Wilson, on these curves. You need to gain as much time as possible, especially through this left-hander. Cut it as much as you can and as much as you dare, and he gets that very nicely indeed. Loses a slight amount of time as he heads into the final sector. He is still up, though, and it's looking good to get himself out of Q1.
Yeah, certainly is. Coming through now, the final portion coming through the stadium now before he then reaches the Peraltada. A little bit rough over the curbs there for Wilson Hughes. 2/3 of this team being represented by the nation of Scotland. Wilson Hughes being one of them, makes his way up towards the line, does improve, but only enough for 15th fastest, which puts him in severe danger. Here comes Barry Bruman now, making his way through the final corners, across the line. He'll ascend to 6th, can't even break ahead of his teammate. Here comes Jed Norgrove, the AlphaTauri. Again, a great qualifying so far for Norgrove, who goes 7th fastest, but in comes Patrick Schipos, looking to aid Alpine into a necessary improvement that they need to build their championship. Donoso comes across in 11th. Here comes Lucas Blakely. He goes fastest here in this Q1 session so far. In comes Ruben Pedreño. He stays 15th. Alpine in serious trouble. Ulas Gilderim currently 14th as well. Brendan Lee, he moves up to 12th, relegates Ruben Pedreño. Alpine, both cars out. Alvaro Carreton going 11th fastest, now down to 12th with John Evans nestling in a P8 time, and Josh Edu now nestling in a fastest lap. The first 1:14.947, the first 1:14 of the session, and the only one of the session, Hayden Gullis.
He do be safe, and he is top of the board as well. Josh, what a fantastic lap. He was in that danger zone. There was so much pressure on him to hook it up, and he puts it right at the top of the board. Sadly, though, for those drivers down at the back of the field, their day is done for now. They're going to have to think about that qualifying session later when we go to Brazil, but for now, they're just going to be setting into it. Sadly there for Wilson Hughes, the first driver to get that lap across the board, but it was not good enough. Patrick Schipos also down there, P20. Pedreño, as you said, not a good day for Alpine, which we just keep on seeing so far this season. I think sadly for them, this season is pretty much done, although they are in a battle at the back between them and Aston Martin at the moment, so it's not going their way because Aston have done a better job. Ulas down there in 17th position, and Fabrizio Donoso in the Aston Martin also out in Q1. Brendan Lee just about surviving by 3/100ths of a second there.
Yeah, for what you say, Hayden, he might start throwing chocolates at you. But yeah,
I think we're good. Oh, he's reaching. No, it's just his water. We're okay.
Yeah, just a reminder of the eliminations, folks, on your screens. Fabrizio Donoso, unfortunately, out, as is Ulas Gilderim, Ruben Pedreño, Wilson Hughes, Patrick Schipos. A really tough day at the office, indeed, for the Alpine team. And looking ahead to Q2 now, they're obviously not with a chance to progress. No shootout for them. So it's all about strategy now.
Yeah, certainly so. Their team now are going to have to decide about what they do, and obviously all the strategies are going to be different depending on where you are on the grid and in the field. And the difficult thing for them as well is that they just have to stay in their seats. They can't get out and be like, okay, my day's done, I'm going to go chill now. Now they've got to stay in their seats. But Claire is with one of our drivers who unfortunately has been knocked out in Q1.
I am indeed alongside Wilson Hughes. Wilson, I saw you shaking your head then. You must be really disappointed in that. You tried so hard.
Yeah, there's not really much to say. I tried my hardest, had a few mistakes in the lap, and yeah, just not good enough.
Tricky as well when you see how well, I mean, Lucas went round there. You know this track well as well. What more could you have done?
Just hooked up the lap better, to be honest. I mean, everyone in the grid has the pace to get through. And yeah, I just made a few mistakes, and that's all it takes. 1 or 2 mistakes and you're out. Easy to do. We've seen some big names out in Q1 before. Yeah, just disappointed.
Is this a track you feel confident to overtake on?
Yeah, I think the qualifying position isn't, the be-all and end-all. It's still going to be a little bit tricky, but we'll try everything we can.
Tough luck. Got another qualifying to go, so good luck then.
Cheers, thank you.
Guys, back to you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire, and obviously a very downtrodden Wilson Hughes after that one, just barely getting into 15th, but of course that wouldn't be enough because eventually it would drop down further for him. I mentioned it on commentary during his lap. It looked like a rough ride coming through the stadium section, maybe taking a little too much curb.
Yeah, I think so. He was up about just over a tenth as he arrived into that and going into the left-hander, and then it just fell away a little bit to only be a 600th improvement on his lap time. As we're not in a race at the moment here in Mexico. I know the drivers are very, very close with each other, but they are currently getting themselves ready just for their banker laps here in qualifying. There's Jarno Opmeer, and he has decided to copy Simon Weigang and gone for a bit of facial accessory there, just donning a moustache for this event. He also said, I believe on socials, if he wins the championship, he's going to shave his head. He's going to be bald. So he's going to be bald with a moustache maybe by the end of this event, if he can catch up to Frederik Rasmussen and overtake him.
Incredible. I mean, what I found fascinating, I'm not sure, obviously, if you're familiar with posting on Twitter, for example. Obviously, Jarno Opmeer posted a picture, or should I say a screenshot, of his karting results back in the day, and some of the drivers he raced against, including the likes of Lando Norris, who went ahead and won the Miami Grand Prix last weekend. And not only that, has raced against many other F1 drivers as well, past and present, even racing against Mick Schumacher, across whether they're in Formula 1, GT3 or Hypercar or LMP, Le Mans prototype. Jarno has raced them, but moved across into sim racing after his real-life racing career came to an end. But he has definitely been very successful in terms of his run so far. He is a 2-time world champion, and a 2-time world champion with one of them being with this very team Mercedes. And 3 times a race winner in every race we've been here prior. 1:15 sent him to the top. Only for a moment, though, Alfie Butcher did take P1, but Tom Manley, fellow rookie, goes fastest of anybody in these initial laps. Now, Caraton, he moves up to 4th as well. Williams very well stacked. Ishmael Fassi moves up to 6th. Freddie Rasmussen answering back again. Lucas Blakely now goes fastest with a 1:15.047. Josh Ito, fastest in our previous session, now goes 5th fastest. So both Red Bulls in the top 5. In comes now John Evans in the top 10 as well. Very encouraging here from John Evans.
Yeah, certainly so. The lap time's very similar to what we saw at the end of Q1 there. Not quite anybody into the 14s, but I imagine all these drivers are currently on those U-set tyres that they used in Q1, as they don't want to waste a set. They're going to use those later when the track's rubbering in. And the reason the lap times are similar compared to what they did earlier on is because that track is evolving as this session goes on. We're going to be seeing our quickest times right at the end in Q3. We're in Q2 for now. Top 10, they move on to Q3. 11th down to 15th will be knocked out and won't get that chance to fight for the pole position point. Of course, something very new for this season. The fastest driver out on track will get an extra point. And, okay, the championship there's quite a large gap between 1st and 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. But things change quite drastically in Event 2. Who's to say that things won't change once again in Event 3? And that point could be vital for somebody's season come the end of it.
Yeah, John Evans, of course, historically, someone who was one of the most talented individuals on the Xbox platform when beginning his career in league racing, then eventually built it up, eventually getting his time behind a PC rig, and then ascending to then joining Aston Martin to become their new driver. And he's been with them since, well, last year is where he began his career, made 7 starts before coming into this championship. Of course, many of the rookies who come in for the first time, they might not necessarily get the preparation that they're looking for. Will Lewis, we of course alluded to him off the back of Caraton missing due to illness back at Event 2. But great to see John Evans coming back, and he'll be looking to try and push onwards and chase his first points, because he knows that obviously Donoso has at least scored 1, Simon scored 1. by rights, he should probably score one too.
Potentially, and that will help their season because, of course, they are in a tight fight at the moment with Alpine at the bottom. All the teams will score, get prize money for where they position in the championship. It's not a case of if you're last, you get nothing. But, you know, those extra positions are going to gain you some valuable bit of dough in your bank account, aren't they? So these guys are going to be fighting for that, and that just means there is battles going on all the way throughout the field. It's important. It's not just a case of, okay, no longer in the fight for the Drivers' Championship. Who cares anymore? You know, you're still fighting for something with the team. As Wilson Hughes there, not looking very happy in the background. We saw a shot of Fabrizio Donoso earlier on when we were looking at John Evans. It just seems weird to me to see Fabrizio Donoso and he's not doing something with his hair because, you know, he's very out there, isn't he? As we're watching a replay at the moment of the Ferrari. This is Barry Bromand as he goes through the final couple of corners, and it looks like he just slid through that final corner, and that would have cost him time. Currently down in P12 at the moment, and no lap time set there from Barry. But yeah, Fabrizio Donoso, I'm hoping that we find some hair dye somewhere here in Sweden, and we will get that sorted as soon as possible.
He has sort of ushered in the blonde highlight as well historically. We have seen that in the past, but yeah, good to see
Bring
Donoso
them back.
Yes, bring it back. Let's see it again. And of course, again, another driver with a moustache historically too. So yeah, we never know. We might see it back. Danny Berejnay, everybody, now making his way through the stadium section in his own right, just preparing for yet another final fast run here in Q2. The timer now ticking in. Well, we've got a couple more laps that they can usher in before the very end. 7 minutes and 40 to go in the session. Here comes the Hungarian. Now crossing the line to commence his flying lap. DRS will be available to him now. He opens up that rear wing and sends it down in towards turn 1. Take us through it, Hayden.
Here we go then. Danny Berejnay will have a brand new set of soft tyres to set a lap time on. Will it be good enough that he can sit back and relax at the end of this Q2 session? Let's see. Rides the curve through turn 2. Nice and tidy through turn 3 and using the exit curve. DRS then back open. Another moment just to relax. Get yourself prepared for this tricky section through the left and the right. Really tight through turn 4 to open up the turn 5 corner, because that's going to maximize your exit and set yourself up very nicely for this double apex corner. Not too close to the first one, but really go over the second apex there. Use the exit curve and prepare yourself for the S's. Danny was a little bit cautious first time around. We watched him through this section. Let's see if he's a bit more aggressive with the curbs, or does he not need to be, because his lap time was very strong in Q1. Nice and tidy through the S's there. Get the car over to the left. A lot of runoff area. That means a lot of track that you can use over that white line, but don't overstep your mark, otherwise you're going to invalidate. Nice and tidy right on the white line. Kiss the apex through the stadium section. Really cut the corner. A little bit of a, just lost the rear end slightly. Was able to catch it. He's going to lose a slight amount of time, but not too much. Keep it tight to the line, and it is going to be into the 14s. It's a 14.8 and a very strong lap from Danny.
Fantastic lap from Danny Berejnay, but trumped by Nicolas Longuet with a 14.760. Barry Brumand now joins his teammate. It's a 1-2. Now remember, we saw the lockout back at Zandvoort. I appreciate it's only Q2, but who knows what's to come later down the line. The two Mercedes line astern in third and fourth, split by Jed Norgrove, who ushers in a time, as does Caraton, 14.9. Butcher now raises the stakes with a fourth place visit with a 14.897. Here comes Brendan Lee, seventh fastest. Ismail Fassi now coming through the final couple of corners here through the Peraltada. Currently in the drop zone, needs to ascend. I appreciate though he's got 1 lap left to do it in. 5th place for Ismail Fassi. In comes Frederik Rasmussen. Can he usher in a decent time? Yes. 5th fastest for the Dane. In comes Thomas Ronhaar at 14.701. And Josh Ito going 9th fastest, less than safe. He'll be looking for better when his next run comes along.
That is a great lap from Thomas Ronhaar. 0.06 of a second quicker than his closest rival, the Ferrari of Nicolas Longuet. It's looking good for Thomas. You can just see the little smile on his face. He's happy with that lap. He knows that was a good lap. And to get a good lap this early on in Q2 is going to set yourself up very nicely, because now he can chill. Looking at that lap time, I think it could be safe. He can now sit back, retire from this session, and get himself ready for Q3. And to do that as well, it's going to give you extra set of tyres to go for those 3 laps in Q3 and really push it. Every single one of those laps is going to give you that advantage to really dial yourself into the rhythm of this circuit and give yourself that best chance to shoot out for pole position. We know Thomas Ronhaar. He's a fantastic qualifier, and he's going to be one to watch by the end of this session for sure.
He certainly will. He's registered 6 poles in his F1 sim racing career so far, and you've got to factor in that he only actually debuted last season and was one of the favourites for the title as well. It actually came down to the final moments, and this, of course, being one of the rounds that might have implicated Thomas Ronhaar not actually claiming that title after coming together with Frederik Rasmussen, though he did finish 3rd in this race last year. So who knows, he might yet be able to come back fighting once again. He's had 3 race wins in his career so far to boot too. There is Nicolas Longuet, once again back in the rig for Ferrari. Someone who is currently on 359 career points in F1 sim racing so far. A little shake of the head, maybe just a little bit malcontent right now, but I'm sure you'll be looking to head out back again. He hasn't got necessarily anything to be too unhappy about because he is second fastest.
They're not first and second.
No.
And, you know, when you're racing drivers, you want to be at the top.
Well, we saw what they could do at Zandvoort, didn't we?
Exactly.
So,
and, you know, for Thomas Ronhaar to be 0.06 of a second quicker around here, I'm sure Nicolas is looking at the lap that he's just done, because I said earlier, you're looking for that perfect lap. And I'm sure there are certain little parts around the lap that you could have thought, I could have rode this curb a little bit more, or I maybe was a bit too aggressive there and the car was unsettled slightly. So he's going to be looking at the lap and thinking, right, where can I improve? So with these drivers, even though you look at them in second place and think, they must be delighted with that, they know where they could have found more time, and they're going to be looking for that in maybe this session, maybe Q3. I think Nicolas Longuet could be one of those drivers as well that they can relax for now and really go for it in Q3, but time will tell. We've got somebody on an outlap at the moment. That is the Mercedes of Danny Beresne, first driver to exit the pit lane. And we have also got a Ferrari out on track. Nicolas Longuet, not comfortable, not safe. And he's one of the first as well. You know, if you're unsure whether you're safe or not, it's best to be one of the last drivers to cross the line to start that lap, because then at least if you are safe and you watch the lap times come in, you can bail out of it at the last minute. And whilst your tyres will have a slight amount of wear, they won't be as worn as a driver who has done a full push lap.
Yeah. Not an unfamiliar scene either to see Jarno Watmere just outside the top 10. I mean, something that we have seen consistently through Event 2, but it doesn't really hinder him too much because, of course, we know what he does in terms of strategy when it comes to race time. So who knows? But obviously, preferential to be in that top 10, to not only be within closing distance of a potential race win or of that of a podium at the very least, but it does make the job somewhat easier in this case. But we're now coming down to the final couple of minutes. 1:45 to go. Thomas Ronhaar, your fastest driver out on track. The bottom 5, just a little reminder, Jed Norgrove, Brendan Lee, Jarno Watmere, John Evans and Tom Manley. If they do not rise into P10 or better, they will not be featuring in the shootout. Again, I'm a little concerned. I'm a few head shakes with Nicolas Longuet right now. What do you think's going on, Hayden?
He's just preparing for the lap at the moment. Maybe, you know, as he's finding his way through the traffic, he's not happy with maybe some of the drivers that are not yielding position, or he's just getting himself prepared at the moment. But those drivers at the bottom, they're going to be looking to try and get in a strong lap. If they get caught out, there'll be no way home for them in this session. But watching on board with a Ferrari driver, Nicolas Longuet. He's going to be the second driver to set a lap time. Danny Beresne is out in the lead at the moment, but let's ride on board with the Ferrari driver as he crosses the line and gets us underway for the last laps in the shootout for the top 10 here in Q2. A long start-finish straight here. Really just a time to reflect on the rest of the lap. But this first corner is so important. You make a mistake here, you're catching time throughout the rest of the lap. But it's nice and tidy through the first corner. Good ride on the curve through turn 2. And as you can see, a great improvement. Already 0.06 of a second up. And that will be enough to match Thomas Ronhaar in this session. Going now in towards turns 4 and 5. Purple through sector 1 at the moment. Open up turn 5 and get back on the throttle. Not too aggressive, otherwise the back end will step out on you. Far away from the first apex, but gets it nice and tidy on the second to maximize the exit off the corner. Still about 0.06 of a second improvement as he enters the S's section. I think he was a little bit offline there, but it is still an improvement on his lap time through the second part of the S's. Ride the curbs, but don't invalidate. Nice and tidy there. Great from Longuet, but it was actually down his lap. Look how much time he's losing compared to his previous delta. Danny Beresne, though, is on a lap. He's going to be coming through the final corner, and can he put himself at the top?
Yeah, we'll soon find out. Coming through now to the stadium section now. That was a very clean run through that final semi-chicane. Of course, a personal improvement in the second sector, purple in the first. Across the line comes Longe, goes fastest immediately, a 1:14.650. Jed Norgrove, he will not improve. He's eliminated. Tom Manley, his teammate, goes 8th fastest. In comes Barry Bruman, Ferrari 1 and 2. Here in Q2 to boot. In comes now Alvaro Caraton, the Spaniard ascends to P6. In comes Alfie Butcher, he takes P6 this time. Brendan Lee, the two-time champ, P10 on the bubble. It's certainly not safe because Jarno's relegated him. Freddie Rasmussen now 4th fastest, drops the Flying Dutchman down to 5th with Danny Berejne now in 6th. Josh Eno up to 8th. So both Red Bulls going through, but Ismail Fassi, what a shock, out of qualifying.
One Williams driver just sneaking into the top 10. But sadly for the other one, their qualifying day here at Mexico is done. But both Ferrari drivers, very strong, 1 and 2, just like we saw in Zandvoort. Could that continue over the rest of this qualifying session? They're very happy with that. But Nicholas will be looking at that lap time again. He lost a lot of time at the exit of the S's section, and he knows where he can improve. So there is more lap time to find around this circuit, and they're really going to be pushing it. There's the the Red Bull drivers. They are both through with this session. Josh, great lap in the first qualifying session, this time just on the cusp. P8, Alfie Butcher, another driver, just on the cusp as well, in 9th in this session. But it's all Ferrari at the moment. Nicholas Longe, Barry Borman, very, very strong from both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got 3 of the big players in terms of teams currently now making their way to the shootout. We've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes. Those are the ones we want to see as well, certainly considering that they're all battling for the championship right now. So, I mean, obviously Ferrari in a great vein of form. They haven't missed a beat really in terms of qualifying since Zandvoort. You know, they're right on the pace, but you know, fabulous stuff certainly from that pairing. And we've got to look at Jarno Opmeer getting into the top 10. Remember, he was in that bottom 10, should I say the bottom 5 in Q2. So there was a good chance that he was going to miss out. But you know, Ismail Fassi, major shock, Hayden. Yeah, certainly so. Although, if we compare the two rookies between Fassi and Alfie Butcher's been the better qualifier, but I feel like Fassi's been the better race driver. Unfortunately, though, he has been knocked out. He won't make it into the top 10, but he does have the delight to speak to Claire right now.
Yes, indeed, Hayden. Ishmael, Hayden was just saying there that he felt that qualifying is maybe not your strongest point, but you do make up for it in the race. Are we going to see a strong performance from what was maybe a disappointing qualifying session?
To be honest, it's not a disappointing qualifying session. I didn't expect that much for this track, but I mean, if I was in Q3, I would have knocked out Alvaro. So one of the cars is in Q3, which is the good thing about this. And yeah, obviously I will try my best in race as I've been doing the last 7 races, and hopefully we can get some points.
Okay, so that's really interesting. You expected to kind of not struggle, that's not the right word, but you didn't expect to be in the top 10 with a track like this?
I mean, I messed up the last corner, but
that'll do it.
yeah, I mean, one of the cars is in Q3. We will focus on getting points with both cars, and hopefully, yeah, we can score. There is one McLaren out in Q1, and they are in front of us by 10 points, I think. So yeah, that's the main goal for us.
Talk me through the race then. How are we going to fight this one through? How are you going to end up in the podium positions?
Well, that's a big goal. But yeah, hopefully, who knows? Maybe I get the podium.
Who knows, indeed. Good luck. Another qualifying session coming up this afternoon. Guys, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Claire Cottingham standing by, of course, with Ismail Fassi giving us his thoughts after his qualifying session. It certainly was a struggle for him, but like he quite rightly says, I mean, if he goes through, then Alvaro Caraton doesn't, Hayden. Yeah, certainly so. It's that sort of double-edged sword, isn't it, for Williams, sadly for them. But Fassi has, as we have seen, great race driver, very aggressive in terms of not afraid to make an overtake, whereas a lot of these drivers don't sometimes feel like there's much reward for making an overtake because the DRS trains are so strong around here. You start battling with a driver through a corner, you lose that gap of a second to the driver in front of, and then you've lost the train, and then you're just a sitting duck and there's no way to catch back up. So you've got to be very strategic with your moves. But Fassi seems to be able to pull them out of the bag. I'm thinking about Austria when he was doing the switchbacks through the final couple of corners and really able to gain on those drivers. So if there's a driver who can come through the field, of course, Fassi is going to be one of them. Yeah. much like Jarno Watmere, seems to master the alternate strat that gets himself into the mix come the very end, and a little wave to boot as well. Always great to see Ismail Fassi here and racing, and certainly been a shining light for Williams so far this season. But looking ahead, obviously that man's got a bit of work to do, and no doubt looking to try and chase down his 4th consecutive race win here at Mexico. It's a possibility, certainly for Jarno Watmere. We'll have to wait and see. I'll tell you what, pole position would be delicious, certainly here at Mexico, and then we'll tee up a nice run, hopefully, for Sao Paulo later on.
Yeah, he'll be licking his lips or licking that moustache if he is putting it on pole position, wouldn't he? But yeah, I mean, you start at the front, it gives you the best opportunity, but is that always the case in F1 sim racing? We saw in Silverstone that he was, 4th position, I believe, in qualifying after the grid penalty, and he said to us after the race that didn't really matter to me. I wasn't too fussed about it, because whether you start first or you start 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you're kind of still in that fight for the race win. So he'll be wanting to put himself, of course, further up through the field, but it won't be the end of the day if he doesn't quite get that pole position. Yes, okay, you miss out on that point, but he'll be focusing on those bigger points come race day.
Absolutely right. Indeed, the 2 Red Bulls as well, focusing on bigger dreams in their own right. Both Frederik Rasmussen and Josh Ido impressing so far in quali. Ido, remember, fastest in Q1. Freddie, very much in the mix, was obviously in the top 5 in that previous session as well. Fabrizio Donoso also just waiting pensively in the midst. Obviously, Aston Martin not with a representative in this latter point in qualifying. John Evans, of course, making it through to Q2, but unfortunately being eliminated down in 14th, so they're going to have to work something out on the strategy. No doubt all smiles back at Ferrari. Jonah Martin's on the right-hand side, no doubt delighted with the way they've approached things so far. A very knowledgeable head when it comes to sim racing, and certainly on this platform, the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, someone we've known as a really competent engineer. And speaking of another competent engineer, we've got Seb Kowalski, who is representing Kick F1 Sim Racing, and obviously aiding the likes of Thomas Ronhart and Brendan Lee, and he does a superb job at that as well. Again, it's brilliant to see that not only are we getting drivers coming through from league racing, or just the drivers, I should say, but we're also seeing the engineers, because the likes of Jonah and Seb, both coming from league racing.
It just goes to show there's so many opportunities in sim racing, and you're seeing a couple of guys behind the desk, but there are so many important people that work around these teams, from PR to social to content, and they've all got an important role for these sim racing teams. And that's the great thing about it, that, yeah, okay, you might enjoy sim racing, but you might not be as good as these guys, and unfortunately you might think, okay, I can't put in the dedication, the hours to be that good, but you're knowledgeable about sim racing, you understand strategy, and you can work on that aspect of it to find yourself a career and work with a Formula 1 team, which of course is so many people's dreams. So it's great to see, and it's great to have them in the studio and to have such a close relationship with the rest of the drivers. There's a couple of cars down there. They've only got 1 car in the field, and of course Kick is one of them. Brendan Lee getting knocked out in the field. Thomas Ronhart, he'll be looking to be the first Avenger here to try and, make sure that the Kick team have a strong performance and not worry too much, and kind of, back up his teammate maybe later on in the races. But yeah, Thomas Ronhart, we know how good he is in qualifying. 6th position in that qualifying session, but he'll be looking to bounce back and get right up at the front.
Yeah, another person we just briefly saw as well was Duncan Hoffland, who steps up as part of the back team here at Aston Martin, aiding the drivers with engineering as well, but he is also the development driver for the Aston Martin team too. Now, someone who has also been performing against the likes of Wilson Hughes historically. It was in fact in many battles historically with Wilson Hughes in terms of league racing championships, and someone as well who is vastly talented and looking for his first F1 Sim Racing Championship drive. So you never know what this season can bring. We have silly season in Formula 1 in real life. We also have silly season in the sim racing world as well. So there's potential for Big Dunk to make his way into the team for next year.
Certainly so. I mean, Aston Martin have scored points so far this season with Simon Weigang and also Fabrizio Donoso, but they're not fighting up at the front. In fact, they are at the bottom of the field at the moment. So maybe they are going to be looking in their own roster, in their own ranks, at other drivers to maybe come through the field or around other teams. That's the great thing about now being back in a LAN event. All the drivers, all the teams, they're all in the same hotels, and you just watch around when we're just chilling in the evening and you're watching these drivers just sit down with other teams, you're like, okay, I wonder what conversations are going on there. You know, you're watching, I'm pretty sure I saw Thomas Ronhaar last event having a chat with some of the guys at Williams. So are they having contract discussions about next season of going there? Who knows? You know, so it's interesting to see that just because nothing's going on out on track, there's always F1 sim racing on the mind, and always the next season to look forward to.
I'm seeing a shaken head here from Brendan Lee.
He doesn't
obviously does not agree with what you're saying.
Onto his arm. He's like, I want to keep him. That's my teammate. Don't talk about it. Don't take him from me.
Leave him alone, he's saying. Here comes Daniel Berejne making his way through the stadium section now. He's got Peraltada coming up. Personal best as you'd expect at the very start of Q3 as he looks to usher in his time now. The Hungarian, who has been impressive, a 1:14.7 straight off the block. Of course, in the initial, they might be using the used tyres just to lay down a foundation and get things started. Nicolas Longuet goes quickest with a 1:14.627. Barry Burman joins him. Yet again, another Ferrari front row. That doesn't necessarily say a lot right now, though, because, of course, we have other cars that are looking to make their way across the line, but it is Ferrari 1 and 2 for now. Alfie Butcher splits them. Ferrari engine powered, however. Frederik Rasmussen goes second fastest, a 1:14.655. Josh Ido, his teammate, a 1:14.941, down in 6th with Caraton down in 7th in the 1:15s. We still haven't seen Otmir yet. He's crossing the line, goes 6th fastest just behind his teammate. And now all that lies in wait is Thomas Ronhaar and Lucas Blakely. But an invalidation for Ronhaar. That's going to upset the balance of his qualifying here. Well, so far in this session, and he doesn't have that delta to measure against either, Hayden.
No, he doesn't.
At a key point as well.
It is a key point, but for Thomas Ronhaar, he's a driver that just because he's invalidated his first one doesn't mean he won't be fighting at the front. I remember back to Spa last season in 2022. He invalidated every single time on his first run. And then bam, top of the board every single time. Maybe he's trying to hide his lap time so other drivers can't see it.
Who knows?
Although, you know, you just go to race director and you'll be able to see it anyway, which a lot of these drivers love to do.
It's a good poker face, Hayden.
Certainly so for Thomas Ronhaar, but, you know, will it work out for him? The strong driver, another driver who hasn't got a lap time in yet, Lucas Blakely. He is currently, you know, not quite going to be fighting up there. He's going to have it all to play for, or is he just, you know, coming through the final corner and he's out of sync of the rest of the group? He's pulling into the pit lane, and that is his qualifying just done for now. And there you go, you can see it just invalidated going into the stadium section. It's such a tricky area, and we've seen it from a lot of these drivers. They really attack that curb on the inside, on the exit of the hairpin of the stadium section, and unfortunately, if you just try and be a little bit too aggressive, you're trying to chase lap time around this circuit, you can be caught out just like Lucas Blakely was. So unfortunately for him there, he's now going to have to go again and try and get a lap time in, and he's not, as you say, got to bank a lap time in to compare himself in. But these drivers, they're so strong that, you know, they can still, on their day, perform and put themselves right at the top of the field.
Yeah, it's truly a tense atmosphere out there. And I'm sure Thomas Ronhaar will be looking to push onwards and upwards despite not setting that initial lap that he would have liked. I'm sure he'll be back and chasing that top time. There's Alfie Butcher as well in the distance, who has been certainly superb through the course of this championship and has been a strong contender right through the course of the campaign so far. Finds himself currently third fastest and 25 thousandths off the top, which is, or certainly away from P2, and that being Frederik Rasmussen. The gaps are minute between each driver, but Nicolas Longuet still sits at the top. There's Frederik Rasmussen, who'll be hoping for a nice solid run. He's currently second fastest and not far away from Longuet's time, though Ferrari, like we said earlier on, will be chasing that same front row lockout so they can manage the pace of the race, Hayden, much like they did at Zandvoort. They were unfortunate that issues outside of their control occurred, but coming back into this race, they got an opportunity to make it work.
Great team players as well. We saw it in Zandvoort where Barry was just slowly backing up the pack, but doing it well. You know, not just driving so slowly that the guys are all on his back of his tail when they're easily able to overtake him. No, he was just increasing that gap little by little because, of course, we had wet weather then. And they would have both had to box at the same time to come off the intermediates and go onto the dry tyres. This time around, strategy can be a little bit different, that you can have that margin of pitting 1 lap later, 1 lap earlier, but if they're both at the front, they can certainly work together, get themselves 1 and 2 by the end of turn 1. But the problem with that is and that's this long start-finish straight. Just because you're first and second, there is such a long way to go before you get into turn one. There's a great opportunity to go on the attack. Here's Thomas Ronhaar, he just invalidated on the entry. As you saw, he just took a little bit too much, and you're probably wondering, well, why are they doing that? Why are they going so far over and off the track? Because it's really going to help your line and let you carry the maximum amount of speed through those corners. But as you saw, he was just a little bit too aggressive, or maybe just not quite as focused, not quite as dialed in, and a little lapse of concentration cost him there.
I mean, if there's going to be one area of the track that is really poignant for invalidations, it is the entry into the S's generally. I mean, you do get pushed out wide, the car understeers just outside beyond track limits, you come in too hot, you're a goner, unfortunately. And that's exactly what happened to Thomas Ronhaar. So he's got to try and do it now with no marker on the board, as now the drivers make their way around the track to conclude their outlaps, and then it all comes down to one final flying lap to decide pole position here at Mexico City. There is Barry Brumand, second in 2 consecutive years here at this circuit. Back in 2021, he followed it up in 2022 alike. We'll be looking to go one step further and potentially win this race. But first and foremost, qualifying Q3, the final lap to be had.
Second in the championship as well. It'll be very important for him to put it in pole position to grab that extra point to start to catch up to Frederik Rasmussen. Let's get down into the first corner. Hard on the brakes of the 100-meter board. Kiss the apex on the inside and then get the car ready to throw it over turn 2. Turn 3, nice and tidy. Use the exit curve, but don't invalidate. Nice and tidy on the right line. And look at that, 1/10 improvement out of that first sector. That's going to be looking good, but you don't want to be paying attention too much to that top right-hand corner of your screen. Great improvement so far from Barry Brumand as he goes through the turn 4, 5, get it nice and tidy through that double hairpin, and again, finding time, more and more time across the rest of this lap. It's purple through sector 1, nice and tidy through the S's section, maybe, yes, 2 tenths up currently for him as he goes now through this corner, really cuts the left-hander. That was perfect, a lot of time gained, not time lost like Nicolas Longuet had in the last session, and now he can set himself up for this final sector and see if he can put himself up at the top of the board.
Yeah, coming through now the stadium section once again, the Iranian looking to try and power on through and potentially enlist a pole time that will take him from being second best to fastest here at this circuit in Mexico. Coming across the line, he does go fastest for now. Here comes his teammate Nicolas Longuet. He comes up towards the line, he remains second fastest. Ferrari front row lockout, at least for now, but the timer is ticking and the cars are still coming. Here comes Lucas Blakely in the Papaya McLaren, tight to the inside, can only ascend to 4th fastest. Alfie Butcher up to 3rd. Here comes the Spaniard Alvaro Carreton in the Williams, goes 7th. In comes Josh Ito, fastest in Q1. He's 3rd fastest in Q3. Jarno Opmeer up to 7th. In comes now Frederik Rasmussen. He splits the Ferraris, joins Brumand on the front row of the grid. For now, Thomas Ronhaar, where did he sit? That was close. It's Ferrari on top, Ronhaar P4. Incredible scenes. Barry Brumand, second in the last 2 years in this very race. He's pole this time here in 2023-24.
Barry B, take a bow. What a lap there from the Ferrari drivers to put themselves right at the front and give themselves a great opportunity come race day. But very importantly, the Red Bulls, they are in the mix. Frederik Rasmussen second, Josh Edu, he's in 4th, splitting the Ferrari drivers. It's a close fight between those guys in the Constructors' Championship as well, and that's very important. Slight disappointment for the Mercedes drivers. They're, of course, in that Constructors' battle as well, 7th and 8th. But 2 drivers that we know can go aggressive, can go for overtakes, and can look to fight up at the front of the field. There is Frederik Rasmussen. He will be happy. He doesn't look happy at the moment, but he will be happy with his 2nd place. It's not quite that extra point, and for him to get that extra point, that would be, lovely, just to extend the championship slightly before they even go racing. But a very strong performance there from Josh as well, and that's very important for Red Bull, to have your 2 drivers throughout the whole event, but also both of them be very consistent.
Yeah, I must say, what a front row we've got for Mexico. I mean, you've got Barry Brumand, who...
Top 2 in the championship.
Well, go back to Zandvoort. The battle for the lead of the race. Remember, Rasmussen set it up his inside. It was a very controversial moment.
He didn't remember it, though. Remember, we asked him. He didn't remember it. He doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah, he suddenly lost his memory for a brief moment. But hey, listen, I mean, this is exactly what we want to see in F1 sim racing. I mean, we've got 2 championship contenders, currently P1 and P2 in the title race. Ferrari and Red Bull going at it for the Constructors' title. This is truly fascinating, Hayden. I mean, it's not just what they do from the front row, it's also Longuet. on the second row of the grid.
Yeah, he'll be very important, but I think P3 is a great place to be because Barry can position his car so that Nicolas Longuet can get that slipstream all the way down to the first corner to maybe try and potentially be 1-2 as they get through to the first corner. We can find out whether that will be the strategy come race day because Claire is talking to our pole position driver, Barry Bromand.
I am indeed a very, very happy Barry. This is so important for the championship, isn't it? We're coming down to crunch time and you picked up the first pole position of event 3.
Yeah, first of all, super happy. Like, I think in Q1, because, you know, we have some 15 minutes to set up warm-up, I couldn't really do much lap because there were some issues with the game. And then, but I'm super happy. I was just getting up to speed, like, in Q1. Q1, I wasn't feeling confident. You can even check the radio. I was saying why I'm like not really rusty. But then I was just getting better, and of course only had one fresh new soft. And I'm so happy with the pole, and good job for my teammate Nico. He was flying all session. And as you can see, my last corner was not the best. I went a little bit wide there and lost like 40, but I don't mind it as long as it's pole.
A standard driver looking behind us to see his own lap going on behind. They can't see that, unfortunately, so we'll have to point that out to them. Yes, you mentioned your teammate there, Nicolas Longuet. It was about to be a Ferrari lockout. Just at the end, Frederik Rasmussen, that person that could beat you to the championship, split you both. That's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but of course we knew Freddie is really fast in this track. He got pole, I think, 3 times in a row. And of course, Freddie is super talented. But I really thought my lap is a pole, and then I was watching Freddie lap, and then when I saw I got pole, I was really happy. But it's still in this track, 1-3, 1-2 doesn't really matter. We still, if we played it well, I think it will be fine.
And you've got a chance to use your teammate a little bit there. If you get, quick off the line, and then you can kind of squeeze the Red Bull out, surely. Not that I'm giving away your strategy or anything.
No, I don't even know exactly. We haven't even spoken about strategy. After quali, I'm here. Still the adrenaline and heart rate is on top. But we're just gonna, for 2 minutes, gonna celebrate the quali, and then for now focus on Brazil quali. And then after the quali is done, we're gonna think about the strategy, of course.
Event 2, we talked a lot and we had a fighting talk. Have we got fighting talk here today from Ferrari? Are we going to see this weekend no tears from Ferrari?
I hope so, but in this championship, anything possible. And I think we're just going to try our best and enjoy it. I think it's really important to enjoy it because it's the last event, every driver just with each other. I think it's really crucial that we enjoy it. And hopefully it's going to end well for us as well.
That's a good point to leave it. Go and enjoy pole position. We're looking forward to seeing what happens in the next qualifying session, but also what happens in the race.
Thank you so much, Claire. Lovely to hear from Barry there. And like you said, no tears, happy emotions. What do you make of that qualifying then?
Oh, that was great. That's the great thing about Mexico, because the lap times are just so close with each other. It's such a short lap, as you said at the beginning of the show, and it just makes it so close, especially with these drivers that they are just all looking for that perfect lap. They're all just trying to make sure they can find those extra thousands, extra hundredths, and Barry did that. Fantastic lap from him. Brilliant.
He did indeed, and of course he will also get that point for that pole position, helping him close that gap to Freddie in the championship. But Freddie is P2, so it's still neck and neck going into the race later.
But Longuet's P3.
Yes.
So we have got a real tie-up, and I think it's great because we get to see the Rasmussen-Barry battle from Zandvoort once again reignited, and Longuet also harbouring some ill will after what happened at Zandvoort in his own right, given the fact that his strategy was unfortunately taken apart. But we've got a fantastic tussle. Points to be gained in both the drivers' and teams' championships. They're both so close.
Marcel, talk us through what stood out to you in that session.
I mean, honestly, I'm a bit annoyed that I was so close with my prediction because Freddie was just 1,000 behind, but I knew he would be up there. And the Ferrari team has been outstanding. They've been so fast the whole session. Nico, Barry, it could have been, if it would have been another session, maybe Nico would have been P1 and Barry would have been behind. But in general, we could see the favorites again. Jarno struggling a little bit, but he was still up in Q3, so we know he's a race merchant. That's what we call him. So he's definitely going to be there for the race. So yeah, I think it was a great session, and it was super, super tight again.
And I think you have some analysis for us now as well. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so I've seen a couple of moments where I was surprised, especially in Q2. We can see Nicolas Longe here. He lost a lot of time in the S section and he still managed to get P1. That's what I mean. Like, he's crazy. Right here, he gets pushed off and nearly gets an off track. He lost over half a tenth there, even still got P1 without any trouble. And yeah, that just shows again, like, the Ferrari guys, probably on average, I would say the fastest team over one lap. Like, this duo is nearly unbeatable, but we have a couple of outstanding talents like Frede. We have Jarno sometimes on some tracks. We have Alfie Butcher, Thomas Ronner. There's just so much talent here. And I still think fastest over one lap on average, definitely Ferrari, I think. There's no question about that.
Who else stood out to you in that qualifying session, either for good reasons or for disappointing ones?
I think for good reasons, Josh Ido, backing up his teammate. You know, we allude to Nicolas Longe being right behind, and those two Ferrari drivers can work together. But also, then if they're working together, Freddie can work together with Josh. Yeah. Be like, okay, you come with me, I'll slipstream you, and we'll get into turn one. I'm fully expecting turn one come race day later on, 4 wide between those 4 drivers, because they'll be slipstreaming each other, and it's all about who can get themselves 1 and 2 by turn one. So I think great from Josh to be able to back up his teammate in such a close championship fight, not only for the drivers, but also for the teams.
Yeah, really strong performance from Josh there. George, who do you think will be disappointed from that session?
I think the Mercedes team. In some way, we did see some reaction from Danny Berejnay as well. He was not happy with how they went, and he's been quite dismissive of his own performances. I think going back to Silverstone, where I think he felt he should have taken the number one role in his team as opposed to allowing Jarno to continue through and gain the success. You could hear it from his interview post-race. He was not necessarily happy with his own performance. So, I mean, I'll say it again, you know, they always want to chase the better results. If you're someone like Jarno Opmeer, given his reputation, and certainly Danny Berejnay as well, they are very fast qualifiers on their day.
They are indeed. But as Marcel said, Jarno's not completely out of the mix, and we know he has fantastic form around this track. But that's for later today. Let's see how our starting grid looks for Mexico City. Talk us through it, guys.
So here we go. Here's the starting grid, and this is how it's going to be lining up come race day later on. We got Patrick Schipos out the back of the grid, sadly. Not a good day for Alpine, and Wilson Hughes is disappointed with his qualifying result as well. We'll line up alongside him on the back row. Then it's Ruben Pedreno, also for Alpine, and Julaš Ozilderim in 17th position. 1 Haas up at the front, 1 Haas near at the back. Jed Norgrove, disappointment for him as well. 15th position for Fabrizio Donoso in that fight for the back of the Championship 2 in Aston Martin. Will be looking for a strong performance come race day to put themselves further up the field. And his teammate John Evans as well, 14th position. But just because you're outside the points in qualifying, you can maybe sneak a result come strategy later on. Tom Manley as well, 13th position on the grid. AlphaTauri, not good from them as well. 2-time champion Brendan Lee, showing this season qualifying maybe hasn't been his strong suit. Some races he's up there, some races he's unfortunately knocked out in Q2. And Ismail Fassi, a great racer, aggressive, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of overtakes from him in the race, George.
Yeah, I think so. If we take a look at the top 10 now, Alvaro Carreton starting 10th, and we've got Danny Berejnay alongside him in 9th place. Then moving on up, Jarno Opmeer starting in 8th spot with Lucas Blakely, 2 champions aligned on the same row of the grid. Blakely, the reigning champ to date so far. Alfie Butcher in 6th. Great qualifying performance from him once again. Josh Ido, as Hayden said, a fantastic performance for Red Bull, and Josh doing the necessaries to help Freddie Rasmussen in his quest to win yet another race. Thomas Ronha in 4th, Nicolas Longe in 3rd. They're sharing the 2nd row of the grid. Grand return from Ronha is going to look to ascend from P3 like he did last year. Freddie Rasmussen on the front row, but it's Barry Burremand on pole position once again, this time for Ferrari.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, there we have it. Our first qualifying session of Event 3 is done and dusted. We're going to have a little bit of a breather before we gear up to go all over again for qualifying at Brazil. So, thank you guys for taking us through that. Marcel, thank you for your analysis. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back very shortly. Make sure you join us. We're back with more action for qualifying.
risk it. He doesn't need to risk it, and oh, he's still risking it. Wants to cross the line in first position. Will cross the line in first position for the first time. Nicolas Longuet comes across the line, and it's wild, but it's victory for Nicolas Longuet with Danny Moreno in second, and you are looking at F1 Esports' newest winner.
So what do I do to kind of like just relax and get my mind off of things and just get away from all the training and the simulator? What I do usually is come here in the sofa, right here in the living room, in front of the TV, and I don't know, just do like normal day-to-day stuff that I'm pretty sure many of you guys do as well. Watch some YouTube videos, some Netflix series or whatever it may be, maybe like a movie. I've also been starting to do some meditation. And I've wanted to learn this for a long time now. No, I'm only joking, guys. This is what I actually do.
So guys, we are back and we are here with Nicolas Longuet, Ferrari esports driver, and yeah, I'm happy that he's here because he's a good friend, long-time rival. And how are you feeling today, Nico?
Well, good. After our first qualifying session, I have to say. Can't really get much better than that, to be honest, in a track like Mexico. Super hard to hook up a lap and easy to invalidate, so super pleased.
Yeah, I've seen your Q2 lap was actually like right on the margin in the middle sector, and you actually lost nearly a 10th. So even though you were P1, you had so much time. So I'm always saying, since years, you are one of the most consistent qualifiers and one of the fastest hot lappers on any F1 game. Doesn't matter, whatever changes, you're always up there. So that's great to see.
Yeah, I felt really comfortable with the car today, to be honest. We did a lot of work for this event, and genuinely, I think that's the best I've ever felt on the rig. So I was surprised, but also pleased at the same time.
But that sounds good for you guys. If you are confident, and Barry also clearly is confident, 5 more races to go. So what do you think you can do? I mean, you're not far behind Red Bull.
Yeah, that's the thing though. They're always in Q3 as well. Red Bull, Mercedes, they're ahead of us in the constructors at the moment. But they're always with us on Q3. So even if we do get a good result, it's always going to be just a little bit of a gain on them. So it's very hard. Even though the gap is close, it's still difficult to catch. But anything can happen, as we saw in event 2.
But you're ahead. Both of you, P1 and P3. I mean, straight right in between.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know Mexico, long straight, late braking turn 1, different lines. You can be on the outside, you can be on the inside. And I mean, you have a lot of experience there as well. So
I'm sure we'll see some contacts between people in turn 1. We're probably going to be 4 or 5 wide with that long straight in lap 1. So I expect the unexpected, I would say.
So what's the game plan?
To be honest, we still have to think about it, because now we're just fully focused on Brazil for the second qualifying session. But it's obviously we're going to have to work together as much as we can. Our pace is really good, so I think whatever strategy we do, I think we can pull it off. So we're not too stressed about it.
And now it's important. I mean, we have qualifying up next, but if you have a good race in Mexico, we get a good qualifying now, you can carry a lot of momentum. Brazil, your strongest track, arguably, right?
Well, yeah, I think it's my strongest track.
We have a lot
Everyone
of history
says that. Yeah, you and me have a lot of history in Mexico. Sorry, in Brazil. Was it 2019? No, 2020. 2020, where we went head-to-head. Those final 2 laps for the win was fun. And then the year after, again, we both qualified at the front, so it was just a deja vu. But I enjoyed driving with you there. We're going to miss you in the next quali.
I mean, I'm old now, so... No. But actually, this is meant to be a podcast where we talk about the Ferrari esports setups, right?
The Ferrari esports setups, what about them?
Want to share them?
No? I mean, to be honest, it's the end of the event. We're not too fast if somebody sees our setup. I mean, it's the end. So next time it's going to be a new game, completely different setups. It's okay. There's nothing special, to be honest. They're very basic in every track. I mean, it's just how you drive the car. We've tried so many different philosophies on setups, and we're always doing the same lap times. So it's just how you drive it.
Just how you drive the car, just putting it P1, and that's how you do it. Yeah. Awesome. No, I mean, that's honestly, I'm super impressed with you this year. You made a big improvement again. And Ferrari clearly made a great decision with putting you and Barry in the same team. You work well together, you're great friends. I mean, how is that for you also off track? I mean, you're spending a lot of time together, especially with how the season played out. lots of time in Maranello?
Yeah, we've been driving for a year straight together, basically. Like every day, we're in the Discord for 5 to 6 hours, talking to each other, playing together. Yeah, honestly, everyone knows we're like best friends. But the thing is, he has pushed me to a level that I've never had to push before. In qualifying pace, just that one lap pace that he has is just unbelievable, and it's so hard for me to push to that level and beat him. Like he's just that quick in qualifying. I think my strongest point this year is actually the race. I think I've improved a lot in the race compared to the last few years. Just my craft and just how I manage my tires and the ERS. So I think if I can consistently be in the top positions, I think in the race I'll do very well.
And now you're in P3, not in P1, but in Stanford you have been really unlucky. I don't want to remind you too much of it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Stanford.
But P3 is technically P1 in Mexico, no?
Yeah, P1, P2, P3, even P4 in Mexico. It doesn't really matter. We're going to be 3 wide.
It's all to play for.
Yeah, of course. We're going to be 3 wide into turn 1 for sure.
So maybe it's redemption time for your first victory.
The whole event is redemption time.
That's awesome. So you're taking
a lot of work
motivation with you.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I mean, tell us a bit more about what you have been up to with Ferrari, also in the background, how they are supporting you, because you also have a great team leader, Tiziana.
Yeah,
so a lot of people don't know in the background the big boss of Ferrari, strong woman. She's amazing. She's loving the boys, and
she's honestly unbelievable. Actually, yeah, I've never experienced something like this in terms of like my boss. She's like family almost already, and I've been in Ferrari for more than a year now that I even forgot about it. I remembered when I went to the first car launch in 2022, and then I went again for 2023. Oh no, sorry, 2023 and 2024. Oh my God, I'm missing the years now. I've been with them for more than a year, and I feel at home. Honestly, I don't feel anything particular that I don't like. The team is perfect around us. We're working very efficiently, I think, and I'm super happy.
So you would say Maranello is your new home, or is home where the family is, or is Maranello your new?
Well,
family?
I'm half Italian, so I guess it was already my home in a sense. But for now, it is my home right now. I feel very comfortable, and I think, as you can see, if you say that I've improved, I think I can also feel it in just how I manage maybe my stress, or like just how I manage the pressure. I think, I'm at an all-time high in terms of that stuff.
I think I would agree. I think your form is really strong, and I think this event will definitely show the true form of Nicolas Longue. Can't wait to see it. So wish you all the best for that. But one important question. I know you and Bari, off the track, it's always EA Sports FC. Who has the better ultimate team?
Well, actually, it's always a competition between us. Who has the better team on FIFA, or EA Sports, how you call it now. We actually stopped. We had to stop playing because of just the amount of pure work and time we had to put into this year, with having 5-6 tracks in one go. So we haven't been playing at all this year. But for the last 2-3 years, we are grinders. Let's say we even reached the leaderboards, and we were playing it all the time. But we just use it for fun, to just disconnect from Formula One a bit, play something else, also get out of the rig a bit, better for your posture and stuff. But we're still gamers at the end. We enjoy playing games together. It's fun.
So what games are you also playing? Like both of you together? Just EA Sports FC?
No, we play Clash Royale in the hotel in the evenings to pass the time a bit, or at the airport waiting for the plane. But honestly, I haven't been playing much, to be honest, this year. Really, I had to put too much work into this.
Complete focus.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah.
So are you going to take a break now after this event?
Absolutely.
A big one or a short one?
No, a big one. I think for a few weeks you're not going to be able to contact me. I'm going to be pure holiday mode.
And then it's back on the grind.
Yeah, it's back on the grind, because the game comes out in a few weeks' time. So.
Are you looking forward to that?
I mean, you're always looking forward to a new challenge, new game, see how it changes. I haven't tested the beta or anything before, so I don't know how it feels personally. So I'll just have to wait and try it myself when it comes out.
That's cool to hear. Awesome. No, thank you very much, Nico.
Thank you, Marcel.
And I wish you all the best for later on. Any kind of predictions? What will happen? Will we see how many drivers will break their wing in turn 1?
We speak about that about Vegas. I don't know about but Brazil. Brazil, it's okay. It's not too bad. I think the racing's always been amped up in Brazil for the last few years, because it was usually the last race of the season. So it's always a bit more chaotic. Now I think it's going to be a little bit more calmer. But I could be totally wrong, to be honest. I have no idea. But our wing should be okay in Brazil.
And who do you think will be on top? You or Bari in Brazil qualifying?
And Bari is really fast in Brazil. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's gonna be close between us two, but hopefully we can get towards the front together.
Awesome. Then I wish you the best of luck, and I will speak to you later.
Yeah, ciao. Ciao, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jake Benham. I'm 17 years old and I drive for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas esports team. My first memory in F1 is 2014, which is quite embarrassing, but it was actually Lewis winning the title on Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. I remember him getting that really good start ahead of Rosberg into turn 1. If anyone got me into it, it would probably be my dad. He used to watch it before me, and then I just watched it with him and then got into it from watching it on the TV. Overall, I would probably say the link between sim racing and the real life racing is getting closer. So when I saw that you could basically race online and almost get the same just sensation except from the G-forces, it was pretty much a no-brainer. So real, like real life now. I just went to the shop one day and saw the F1 2014, I think, was there, and ultimately, obviously, after watching a few of the races by this point, I wanted to give it a go. Yeah, instantly just got hooked on the game, and it went from there basically. I originally found out that sim racing could be a career when I got the call up from Ollie, our team principal, about joining Mercedes, which was quite an interesting one because I was on the bus home from school, because obviously Mercedes is my favourite team with Hamilton and Bottas at the time. It's really exciting to see where F1 sim racing has come from. In 2017, 2018, obviously I didn't really know it was a thing, but in 2019 to 2020 I found out what it was, and obviously I was seeing like the likes of Jarno and Danny, both my teammates, participating. And obviously I knew it was going to be really hard to get to their level, but ultimately the level each year is getting higher and higher, the fan base is getting higher, and it's just really exciting to see where I can go in the next few years.
So we are back with another talent. Right here we have Jake Benham, fan favorite. I think a lot of you know him from the Co-op series with Jarno Oppmer. I think nobody can wait until that returns.
Yeah, hopefully I keep my front wing a few more times.
I just wanted to ask, will you keep your front wing for the next race? But in esports, that's of course a different story, because there he's not messing around. He's a super talented driver from the Mercedes-AMG Petronas esports team. Also, we were teammates last year, know him very well. And I'm happy that he's joining us today for a little insight into what's going on behind the scenes for Mercedes, for Jake, and just getting a little bit in touch there.
Yeah, it's been a very stressful period, to be honest. The last 2 months have been quite on it. But yeah, ultimately we're nearly at the end now, and one big last push in these last few races, which should hopefully go well.
I wish you the best, but honestly, the first question that I want to know from you, how are you feeling after this year of preparation?
Yeah, it's been quite a stressful one. A lot of work being done in such a short amount of time, but also over the whole year it's been quite an effort from everyone to get on the pace back again after the long break in between event 1 and 2. But yeah, been enjoyable at times, frustrating at times. Just been a journey, we'll say that, and can't wait to get racing tomorrow.
Yeah, but you've done also well for yourself. I mean, like the first time you were in the seat, you immediately delivered, especially in qualifying and also in the race. Like I think your race pace this year is super strong. Sometimes in quali, maybe you're still trying to sort it out, but in general, you're definitely up there. So
yeah, it's been a big step up since last year, even in quali as well, where I feel like I can, if I hook up a lap like everyone, I think a lot of people can get pole. Race pace has been strong all year, so yeah, looking forward to it mainly. Obviously everyone's got the nervous energy is quite a lot in the venue, so yeah, just hoping for a good result tomorrow and hoping for a good result today in Jarno and Danny as well.
So you are racing tomorrow by the sounds of it. Which tracks are you going to race at?
Vegas and Qatar.
And which one do you like the most?
I'd probably say Qatar, just because of the unknown.
Okay.
Honestly, I feel like anyone can win. Anyone. The strategy is so open, and should be hopefully a really good race.
Okay, so and what is your stronger one over one lap?
I'd say they're quite equal, to be honest.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. I've improved a lot in Qatar. I obviously had that league racer moment with Barry, which wasn't very good. Dropped the confidence a lot, but yeah, ultimately grinded a lot to get back on pace at Qatar, and it should hopefully be all right.
That's awesome. And what is your game plan for Vegas? Because I know already from what we've seen in league racing on the 23 game, there's not a single race at Vegas where there's every car with a full front wing and no collisions. So we will have to wait and see what happens. But what do you think? How many cars will have a front wing damage, and what is the strategy to actually be in a good point scoring position, maybe even winning?
I'd say, I mean, pole's not essential. It's nice, obviously, but down that long straight, at the back straight before the final sector, you can get overtaken by like 4 cars. So not fully essential for pole, but it's nice just being up the front, not having to work your way through. But yeah, ultimately, top 10, you've got a shot at the win if you do your strategy right with all the carnage that's going to go on. And yeah, it should hopefully be a good race, basically.
I think you already did quite well in league racing, so I think we might see another Jake Benham all-time performance tomorrow. So
yeah, that's the plan. I mean, yeah, it's one of my stronger tracks, literally just because I'm more of a race driver, as a lot of people know. Quali has been a bit of a Achilles heel for the last 2 years for me, but yeah, it's coming back, and ultimately just feeling really strong in race pace, even in quali as well. Pull a good lap together. I think obviously like anyone can get pole, and I feel like definitely in there in the fight.
Awesome. So I know also when I was with Mercedes, you guys are putting in a lot of work with data and all sorts of things. Like you're putting in the detail. Can you share a little bit about what is actually going on behind the scenes? Because I think the usual casual sim racer out there, he's league racing, he's doing time trial, qualifying, race, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes. Is there something that you can share without giving any advantages to your rivals?
Yeah, I'd just say the main thing is data that people don't look. The casual sim racer doesn't see all the data that we look at. Throttle, braking, everything. Every team here has data that they're looking at constantly, just to gain that extra 100th, extra just edge on the setup over everyone. And it's been quite a grind, just trying to find that. And then obviously everyone comes here, you get a little bit more nervous with people saying, oh, they think someone's done this, someone's done that. And it's just, ultimately it's just a lot of data that people don't realise that we go through. Obviously, like it's very useful, but it's very frustrating at the same time, just having that extra 100th to go for each time.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, there's never enough. You will always find another reason to look into deeper telemetry and whatsoever, and just analyze your own laps. And maybe also, I mean, you have great teammates, and probably arguably with Danny, one of the quickest over 1 lap on the game. You can learn so much from him, no?
Yeah, definitely. Danny is definitely the quickest qualifier I've ever worked with. And ultimately, you learn so much off him just because he's so experienced. Same with Jarno, really big experience on both of them. Ultimately, I haven't had much experience, obviously, second season. And especially with this format that we're on now, it's very good to just see what they're doing, learn off them, and hopefully it just translates into good results.
Yeah, so you're basically the full package. So Jarno is Mr. Race and Danny is Mr. Qualifier. And then when you learn from both of them and one day they will retire, you're going to step in and be like, okay, I'm ready and now it's my turn.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately I want to beat them on merit. I want to beat them. But
I mean, you can. You did already a couple of times.
Yeah, it's, we're all very, very close. Obviously, Jarno's had that edge, I think, on everyone in just race IQ and being able to think for a race just a little bit better on everyone else. Danny, always at the front at quali. Very, very good, and also very quick in the race. His race pace is very good. So, yeah, it's just, like I said at the start, it's really good to be learning off those and taking on the experience that they give onto me. And yeah, hopefully I can translate those skills that I learn off them into my driving.
But surely also they already learned from you. I mean, you're not a development driver or any sort of thing. You are already up there, you're here for a reason. So
yeah, I guess some of the way I think and drive, I guess they take as well. Obviously, everyone's always looking at other teams as well, trying to learn off other drivers and see if they have any onboards that we can look at, see what they're doing differently. Maybe even if it's literally just turning off ERS on a quali lap at some place that we're not, just to gain that little bit ERS on the end of the lap. So yeah, it's always a challenge looking at other people's laps, and but ultimately the more laps you can look at, the more time you can gain, I think. And yeah, it's just been a very avoiding the point a little bit there, but yeah, long season, and yeah, just looking forward to go racing.
one thing with Jarno, he grew another front wing underneath his nose and between his lips right here. It looks like he has a upwards front wing. If he's gonna win every single race now in this event, are you also gonna grow one?
I think I'd struggle, to be honest, to grow one like that. It's an interesting style he's running this event. Not sure if I would personally do it, but he did also say, correct me if I'm wrong, that if he wins the championship, he'll go bald.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so all to play for him. I think he should keep the moustache and go bald. That would look quite interesting.
Let's see how this is going to play out. But this was Jake. Thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck for tomorrow and also for the team. So yes, now we're going into a short little break, and we're going to see you right after that.
Welcome back to Event 3 and welcome back to qualifying. Qualifying at Mexico City is done and dusted with Barry Burman taking that pole position, and now we turn our attention to São Paulo. Same team as earlier, I'm Mariana Bravo. With me is Hayden Gullis, George Morgan, and Claire Cottingham is also lining up some interviews for you. Marcel will be back shortly as well. Of course, he had a busy break while the rest of us had our feet up. He was chatting to some of our drivers. Guys, looking ahead to São Paulo, it's going to be exciting. São Paulo, Interlagos, one of my favourite tracks.
Such a great track, and also very close in lap time again, just like we had in Mexico. A short lap, which means we're going to have very short margins between all the drivers, a close qualifying session, and another track where you're really on the limit. I'm looking at turn 2 into turn 3. You've really got to cut those corners, but you can easily invalidate there.
And George, it was a great qualifying session for Ferrari just now at Mexico City, and they do have good form as well. Nicholas Longe, especially when we look at São Paulo.
Yes, and Barry Burman has form around this track too. Finished third last season, and I think no doubt be looking for more this time around. But it's the best start that Ferrari could have wished for. I think obviously they've got to come back now and try and emulate the same success here at Brazil. São Paulo, a vastly different circuit. You've got elevation change, undulation, you name it, different types of corners, fast speed, mid speed, slow speed. It's got everything.
It has everything indeed. And right now, Claire has managed to grab hold of one of the Ferrari teams so we can get a little bit more inside information from them. Claire?
Yeah, alongside me, Jonah Martins. Jonah, it's already been a really positive start for Ferrari, hasn't it? You've got Barry Burman on pole position and you've got Nicholas Longe starting third in Mexico. We're going into the next qualifying session now. How are we feeling?
To be honest, really confident. I think the last qualifying session set a really good tone for the whole event. So I think we can be happy looking forward because we're still in a constructors fight, and I think this will set the tone for the whole event. So looking forward, I'm looking forward to Brazil, especially. Yeah.
Lots of fights going on, going all over. You know, obviously with Frederik Rasmussen as well that you guys are battling against. He is in the middle of you guys for Mexico, but this one, are we looking to have Ferrari 1-2?
Well, I can only hope. I don't want to say too much predictions because I might jinx it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Brazil. It's a really strong track for us on practice as well. So I just hope we can perform well and get both cars into Q3 safely first, and then we'll see where we can qualify.
How are you feeling as a team at the moment in terms of Ferrari? Obviously, it was quite just to the end of Event 2. It was very emotional with Nicholas Longe, and also, weirdly, Barry was happy, but also emotional for his teammate as well. There was a lot of emotions flying around, wasn't there? How are you guys feeling coming into Event 3?
I think we recovered really well as a team. I think Nicholas got his mind very clear again straight away. Barry ended strong on Event 2 anyway, so he's feeling very confident into here. And I think with the preparations we've done, being as a group together in Maranello for the last 2 weeks, I think we prepared quite well, and mentally we look forward to this event, and I think we can recover and see if we can fight for the constructors with Red Bull, because we have a little bit of points to catch.
Because I think that's what a lot of people maybe forget, how much effort goes into these events as well. Like you say, you spent last couple of weeks in Maranello. You've probably got sick of each other by this point.
Yeah, it's much sitting, like being with each other all the time, because you're really on top of each other all day. Like we arrive at like 11 a.m. Most of the time don't leave to the actual house before like 11, 12. So it's long days. But in the end, it's really good as a team to prepare, to know each other really well, and to work together as a team. Because in the end, it's all about the race here in the LAN environment, especially this game. The race is so important. So relying on each other and trusting each other is really important.
And what would it mean personally for you to wrap up the Constructors' Championship?
I think winning with Ferrari is genuinely a thing anyone can dream of. I won it last year with McLaren, which I'm happy with. So I hope to be able to go back to back, but it's a long way to go. 5 races to go, so we will see what can happen.
Hoping to do the double?
Yes.
Something like that, hey. As always, fighting talk from Ferrari. Guys, back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Claire. Lovely to hear from Jonah there. Let's now talk a little bit about our top 4 drivers in the championship, because although Frederik Rasmussen is, of course, leading the championship at the moment, it's still all to play for. Freddie at the top there with 115 points, Barry 75, then only 4 points between him and Jarno, and then Thomas Ronhart only a few behind there. This is close.
Yeah, it looks quite large there, 40 points between Rasmussen and Bromand so far in the championship, but things change so quickly in Event 2, and we've still got 5 races to go in Event 3, so things can change quickly in F1 sim racing. These guys are very, very close together, and we could see Barry Bromand fighting with him later on in this event. Jarno, though, never count him out. And of course, Thomas Ronhart, we know that he has incredible qualifying pace. Just needs to kind of convert that into race pace across and be more consistent than he was in Event 2. And he can get back in his championship fight.
Well, in Event 2, we saw things swing in the standings as we went through the races. But what was really nice to see there is the mix of teams. It's not one team dominating those top 4 positions.
No, it's not. We got quite the variation. And what I love as well about what we've seen already at Mexico is that all those teams have made it through to Q3 in that battle. So, we have got a true championship tussle. Obviously, the one advantage Freddie has, the one quiver he has in his bow, is essentially is the fact that he's a 3-time race winner this season. No one else has gone on to win multiple races so far this campaign. He's the only driver to do that. Barry, though, creeping closer. That Mexico pole could make all the difference. That's another point to add. Yep. He came in with 74. He's on 75 now. It's a bright spark that could lead to a big bonfire.
Are those top 4 who you expected to be in the top 4?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they are very, very strong drivers. We spoke earlier about Freddie Rasmussen and his consistency, and also Jarno Opmeer. We know of his ability in these sims, and I think it's good for them that their teammates aren't in the championship fight, because otherwise you have something like we had at McLaren last season, a civil war between the two of them where they're fighting for that championship. As you can just allow those guys to just work for themselves, and their teammate can back them up.
Oh, hello. Change of microphone. Showbiz, we love it. That makes all the difference, as you said. But looking ahead to Sao Paulo, qualifying, who are you feeling good about? Out of that top 4, I want to know. Let's look at those 4. Who do you think could grab that extra point that will make all the difference as we go through Event 3?
It's a big mystery. What I will say, recent form, Rasmussen has been brilliant around Sao Paulo. We say his name multiple every time now, it feels like. But we look back at 21, he was a race winner here. And then, of course, the following season, last campaign, he finished second. He hasn't been outside the top 2 now for the last couple of years. Barry's still there, though. He's flittering in amongst the results. Longuet was a winner here back in 2020. It feels like all the characters are coming in. Even Danny Berejnay was a race winner here back in 2019. So, it's anybody's race here at this point. And that's what we love. That's what we need, is a big fight.
We exactly want just that. Guys, all of you that are joining us from home, please make sure you get in touch with us on social media. Use the hashtag F1 Esports. Follow us on all the usual big flat platforms. Let us know what you think. Give us your feedback. Give us your opinions as well. We want to know who you're rooting for. Make sure you stay in touch. We all stay across all of the comments and messages that you send in. So please don't be shy. Now, I think that Claire has lined up another interview for us. Claire?
Yeah, pop down here to Red Bull alongside me, Andre Kunchman, the engineer for Red Bull today. Let's talk a little bit about the session we've just had, shall we? Mexico. It was so close there for Freddie. Really, really strong lap, but just not quite as strong as the Ferrari.
I mean, 1,000 of a second is not really much between them. Close session. I mean, we are happy with P2. It's often maybe even better starting position than P1, so not too bad. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting what everyone decides to do strat-wise in the race. So yeah, we'll be ready, but I mean, let's see.
For a race like that, what's the most important thing? Is it getting a good start to make sure that you're in front of the Ferraris, or is it sort of biding your time, not trying to give away your strategies, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer at this point, but no, I mean, you obviously cannot probably get away with the train and with the DRS, so it's just about keeping it cool, not making any mistakes, staying in the train, staying in position, and hopefully get them later on in the race.
And talk me through the preparation for this event. We've obviously had event 2 only a couple of weeks ago, and coming into event 3, like we were speaking to Jonah at Ferrari, there is a lot of preparation that goes into this.
There is indeed. It's really flat out. Obviously, since the last event, we have had, 4 or 5 weeks, 5 races, so it's a lot of effort that goes into it, which of course also increases the pressure on everyone. But yeah, we are here to hopefully prove that what we have done is correct and that we are fully prepared, and yeah, fingers crossed that it's going to work out at the end.
And you've got 2 very strong drivers there, Josh Ido and Frederik Rasmussen, and Freddie could be crowned champion come the end of this. We're not talking about it. We're not going to talk about it. But how are the kind of anticipation, the nerves coming into this? Is it something you just have to forget?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we try not to look at the standings. We not look at the points. It's still 5 races, as we saw. You know, everything can change within 1 or 2 races. So there's no point trying to do the math. What we possibly may have been, could have been. You know, we just take it race by race. I know that's the most stereotypical answer you can get, but that's how it is, really. So
that's fine. We're okay with that. We're okay with it. We're okay with that one. And coming into this qualifying session, then, are we feeling strong? Is it going to be a track that your guys are going to be good around?
I think it's going to be very tight with Ferrari once again. I think, yeah, it's going to be very close between us, Ferrari, possibly other teams as well. So it's the shortest track on the calendar, so the differences and the gaps will be even smaller. So, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know.
Andre, I'll let you get back to work. Thank you so much. Guys, back to you.
Thank you very much, Claire. As he said, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very close, and also saying that they're not letting themselves get ahead of themselves there. They're not doing the maths, even though we are. They're not. I think that is the right path to be following. Before I hand over to you guys, talk us through what we should be looking out for this track, for qualifying specifically. You've already mentioned the small margins.
Yeah, track limits, very important. I'd say turn 2, a predominant one, but also you're looking at the exit of turn 4, very easy to run wide there, into the 2 hairpins, and as you rise up the hill in that midsection, you can easily just overstep the mark and run out wide, and then the hairpins, you want to cut the corners to gain time, but a little bit too eager, and you're going to get invalidated. So those are the points to watch out for track limits.
And George, comments from you?
Yeah, I think looking at Brazil, totally agree with Hayden. The S's tend to be a little bit tricky. You can very easily lose it. Understeer can be a bit of an issue because you've got this sort of downhill stance before you make your way through towards turn 2. Turn 4 is a massive one. We've seen drivers endlessly go off track and into the off-road, you know, not quite into the barrier, but obviously there's quite an extended bit of tarmac there. Middle sector, very easy to get it wrong. There's an oversteery section coming out, I believe it's the Piraltada, in fact. It's coming out of turn 8 anyway, and turn 10, which then feeds you through towards sector 3. And then you've got Junsao right at the top of the hill. If you get that one wrong, oversteer City as well. If you get it right there on this track, it rewards you. Mega. Yeah.
It might be a short track, but there is lots to keep your eye on. As I said, this is one of my favourite circuits on the calendar, and I'm now going to sit back and enjoy as the drivers go flat out around here. Guys, take it away for qualifying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ariana. We are now here and raring and ready to go. We are here for the qualifying leading up to the São Paulo Grand Prix in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. Interlagos, the destination. A track that historically has featured as one of the finale races of the F1 season. Generally in real life here, it has also given us many great races. Historically, we've had 4 race winners. 4 different race winners as well. Lucas Blakely, last season's champion, who has won here. Frederik Rasmussen bidding to become a champion for the first time, winning it back in 2021. Nicolas Longuet winning it back in 2020. He'll be looking to try and make it 2 this year and try and improve Ferrari's position, with Danny Berejnay winning it back in 2019. Conditions are looking somewhat okay. Here's the track map: 4.309 kilometers, that's 2.677 miles, 15 turns await the drivers, with DRS zones available heading down through towards turn 4, and of course you've got the home straight that can very much help you out in towards turn 1 as well. And Hayden, looking ahead, Ferrari I think will have, I suppose, been boomed a little bit in terms of what they saw back in Mexico City. Very nearly a front row lockout. The gaps were minute, and you can just see there Nicolas Longuet full of optimism, as should be Barry Burman. He's already nestled in 1 pole position already today. He'll be looking to make it 2 potentially.
Certainly so. Double thumbs up there from Barry Bromond, and they're the 2 Red Bull drivers leading the championship. The Constructors' Championship is Red Bull at the moment. Ferrari will be looking to hunt them down, both Barry Bromond and Ferrari hunting down in both of those championships. But all the drivers very calm. And Marcel alluded to it earlier. These drivers will be wanting this session to get on as soon as possible so that those nerves don't build up, because it just sits there in your stomach. But those nerves are important, because if you don't feel those nerves anymore, you just don't really care. So these drivers, they care so much about this championship, not just for their teams and for the prize pool, but they're so passionate about sim racing. It means so much to these guys. You know, you look at Lucas Blakely when he won the championship last season. I think you could hear the roar all the way from Woking over in London from the studio there. So yes. I do believe that there's a lot of passion out here on track, and you know, at the moment they're just nice and calm. Brendan Lee going through, just looking through the lobby at the moment, just trying to double check. Is all his rivals there? Who is he looking for? Brendan, who are you looking for? Who's your rival? No idea. No idea.
He's definitely throwing a bounty at you later on.
yeah, he's going to get us later on.
Incredible. Right, yes, so we're going to be looking ahead to another qualifying session. There is the man who currently holds all the cards in terms of last season's championship, reigning champion Lucas Blakely. Still yet to win a race this season.
Yeah, it's not really gone his way. He's been plagued with issues so far this season, whether they've been in his own hands or out of his own hands. Of course, we had the virtual safety car after the disconnection for Lucas Blakely earlier on in the season, and things have just slowly fallen away from him. It's very, very unlikely that he'll be looking to fight for retaining his championship this season. Alfie Butcher, very strong in qualifying. Let's see what he can do later on. We're not yet getting into the lobby just yet, so we're waiting for whether drivers are going to be, you know, moaning about the weather. Brazil tends to throw up a few rolls the dice for weather. That's what I'm trying to say. We could certainly see the elements today.
Changeable conditions. I mean, if we want to factor in some real-life elements here, I mean, Lewis Hamilton's title win heading back at Brazil all those years ago. Daniel Berejnay making his, well, he'll be making his way out on track, of course, lining up for Mercedes. They were, I think, fair to middling in terms of their results in our previous session back at Mexico. There's Jana Watmir looking for grander success as well, looking to try and make it at least 2 race wins this season. But first and foremost, qualifying awaits us. And no doubt he'll be hoping that with a twitch of the moustache, he'll be able to nestle in a decent result. I mean, obviously, we've spoken about some of the main zones here, Hayden. I mean, there are many here around Sao Paulo. I mean, obviously, you got the overtaking spots. We're, of course, aware of those. We'll get into those when we go racing later on this evening. But in terms of the qualifying nature of things, this is a vicious track to hook up, because very much like Spa-Francorchamps in many ways, because you have such high variation in terms of what's in front of you, that level of consistency is very difficult to maintain.
Certainly so. And, you know, one small mistake being such a short lap can leave you to tumble down the order. Setup is going to be very important here today, because, you know, you've got that long start-finish straight all the way from the final corner. And I know there's a couple of corners in the way of it, but they're not really corners. You're flat out all the way through there. So for these guys, you know, for that section, you're focusing on straight line speed, and especially down the back straight after turn 3 into turn 4. But then you've got that middle section, which is so focused on high speed and tricky hairpins as well. So setup is going to be very important to try and hook up the perfect lap. And of course, these guys, some of them might be looking at later on in the race running a bit higher aero, and if they can be at the front of the train, mark that, you know, second sector as when to really run away from everybody else. There's Alpine not a strong qualifying for those guys, and that's kind of been the story of this season so far for those guys, down at the back of the championship. But importantly, they are ahead of Aston Martin, and they'll be looking to try and see if they can pick up some points and extend that lead over those guys in the battle for not being last.
Interesting crossover in Red Bull as well. Not only have they got Andre Kunschmann at the helm, but they've also got in their midst with them Jeffrey Rietveld, who is also a GT3 competitor at sim racing esports level. So they've mustered in yet another champion and someone who has been very successful in his own sim racing career, and representing the team this time around and helping along the likes of the AlphaTauri team here this time around. So that's an interesting notion, and we'll wait and see how they get on. There is the Williams squadron. We've got the Spanish counterparts, Ismael Fassi and Alvaro Caraton. You can just see there as well, Ben Hawkins in the distance representing the team. There's Richard as well on the left, Gregory Balatti representing Alpine. And they'll be hoping for a better run this time around. Like you alluded to, Hayden, they had a really tricky time back in Mexico City, and Alpine must be wondering what they need to do in order to try and advance their cause.
Well, they'll be hoping for a roll of the dice and changeable conditions. And let's wait and see. Is there a little bit of a moan going around? No, it looks like it is going to be dry conditions. We're starting off with overcast, although no, it's going to get wetter in this session. Starting off with overcast conditions. There are the AlphaTauri drivers, Joni Tormola and Jed Norgrove. They'll be looking for a strong qualifying. We've seen so far this season a few of the AlphaTauri drivers able to pull out some strong performances for those guys, as qualifying will be getting underway and drivers getting out on track very, very quickly. And this is all because the rain is coming down. Look at them, this is basically like a race coming out of the pit lane at the moment. 17 minutes still left on the clock, but these guys will need to get a move on because the rain is coming down. And then when we get into the latter stages, it's going to be intermediate/wet conditions, which means you won't be able to improve. So they have to get on it as soon as possible, especially if the rain comes down in the next couple of seconds as they're coming round in their warm-up laps. But they still need to build up tyre temperature. They need to hold the brake, hold the throttle, build up the temps in the tyres to get going as soon as they possibly can.
Yeah, well, we're back underway here in Q1. As you can see, they're very busy out on track. At this point, we've got Jarno Opmeer. Cars fighting over track space
at the back
as we're getting underway here in qualifying. 60 minutes and 35, and I must say, Joni Tormola, it looks like one of the very few who has actually got track space to work with here.
Yeah, he's just bolted. He's like, I don't want to deal with what you guys are doing back there. You can fight each other and get in each other's way. I don't care. I'm going for my hot lap, and I'm getting my lap in as soon as he possibly can. Here he goes across the line here at Brazil, heading into the first corner. You rise uphill and then hard on the brakes to the 50-meter board, then clip the apex on the inside as you go down in towards the second corner. No invalidations through turn 3, and then really hug the inside of this corner all the way through. DRS open, and is it raining out there? It looks like maybe a few spots of rain out on track is already forming. And yes, it is. It's raining already, so it's vital for these guys to get their laps in as soon as possible. I can see a driver that's not even crossed the line yet, right to the back, and that's going to affect him. Joni Tormola has got the best track conditions out there of any driver for his hot lap, because he will finish his lap first. Through the first hairpin, then back into the left. Nice and tidy on the inside, back on the throttle, set yourself up for the next hairpin and brake when the curbing starts on the right-hand side. Kiss the apex on the inside. There's a bit of a camber that kind of helps you through the corner, so it allows you to carry more speed through the right-hander. Now downhill on the left. The last proper corner on the brakes. The rain is certainly falling. You can certainly see it on your screens, and Joni Tormola should get the best lap in here.
Yeah, he's making his way up the hill now, past the Archibald Carlos on the right-hand side, and he'll be looking to enlist his first flying lap. Could be his only one here in this session as well, and having the advantage of being the highest one, or certainly the furthest one around this circuit. He will post a time, but 109.499 here for Joni Tormola and AlphaTauri. Caraton goes second fastest. Indeed, the lap times are falling off. Time after time, we're seeing driver by driver losing, well, certainly losing more and more time as they make their way around the track. And just look at the deficit already. Nearly a whole second separating. Longue somehow manages to dig out a P12, and DRS has been disabled here at this point in Q1. And it's Tormola who sits at the top of the order in a sensational visit. And now, as we see, Patrick Schipos, 90, well, he currently remains 19th place. He is now up to 18th. Danny Berejnay, not even out on track. Pedreño is looking to come up towards the line once again. Could be a disaster faster for Alpine.
Yeah, Danny Berezne decided to bail out of that lap because he realised it was far too late. Whether he would have got his lap time in or not, he would have been at the back of the timings. So Danny thinking, if he goes on very quickly, puts on a set of intermediate tyres, goes again right now, then potentially he would still be able to be in that bottom end and maybe just about pip the likes of Wilson Hughes, who is currently in 15. But some of the shocks that are down there, Barry Broman down in 17th position. Patrick Schipos in validation, but that's of course on an in-lap, so this is not going to matter too much. But they're down there. Ruben Pedreño is also in the pit, so maybe going to be jumping on some inters. And Danny Berezne, I can confirm, is on intermediate tyres right now. Should be exiting the pit lane very quickly because it's going to heavy rain, I believe. I believe it's going from light rain to heavy rain. So it'd be important to get out on those intermediate tyres as soon as possible to make sure you don't get caught out once again. And yeah, maybe Danny Berezne, if he gets a lap time in, might just be able to pip Wilson Hughes. It just depends on the deficit with the rain and how different the lap times are between the two tyres. But yeah, Joni Tormela smashed it. Fastest in Q1, and it was all about track position. And you can understand why those guys were fighting so hard to get a move on with it, but I just don't understand why, you know, those drivers let Joni have such a huge jump on everybody else, but also not trying to be as close to him as possible and get those better track conditions.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. Joni Tormela now making his obviously first appearance up at the top of a timing screen so far this season, and could be the first time he's fastest here this campaign as well in qualifying altogether, given the fact that he has now posted that 109.499, which, if this rain continues, will not be surpassed here at this point, as it still is very much a maelstrom scenario. Well, saying that, we are on light rain for now. It could yet reach stormy conditions. We'll have to wait and see. But still on intermediate tyres, Danny Berezne looking to post his first run on this compound of tyres. Now, he's just going to be basically searching for anything he can muster. But at the same time, maybe an opportunity for some wet practice here for later on.
Yeah, certainly. Frederik Rasmussen already going out on the intermediate, so or just having a look at that already. We've got on an outlap Danny Berezne. Thomas Ronhaar retired from the session. He's like, I don't even want to do any wet practice. I'm happy with how things are at the moment. And, you know, a 110.0 in the dry conditions now with it being wet is surely going to be very difficult to beat. Let's see what Danny Berezne can do, though. Let's see how good these intermediate tyres will work around this circuit now in intermediate conditions. Will he be able to, you know, just scrape in that 15th position? Will he be able to jump Wilson Hughes? Currently 111.1. Danny Berezne nice and tidy through the first couple of corners. It would have been interesting to see, actually, whether, you know, a driver on intermediate tyres in that first run, like a Danny Berezne, who was a little bit further back, would that have benefited him? Or is it just, you know, this is for Danny Berezne just to, I'm already out of this session, it's not worked out for me, I'm going to go out on track and have some fun. As there's a car in the way, that's an Alpine, and that's really not going to help Danny Berezne there.
Yeah, it could be one or the other, because Patrick Schipos and Ruben Pedreño are out on intermediate tyres. But Danny Berezne coming through that middle sector, he'll then head through out of the Larangina into SA at turn 8, coming through in towards turn 9 at the Piorino, and then through towards the next right-hander, the hairpin, the very tight hairpin, where you can suffer a little bit of oversteer as well, and that's only more tricky given the fact that we have got a wet track at this point, as they now look to make their way up the hill. In comes now Berezne, coming up through towards Junsao corner, back on the throttle. He'll feather it slightly and then put it straight back down as he looks to make his way over the top of the crest, past the Archibancardis and heading up towards the line. What can Berezne do on these intermediate tyres? He'll make his way now across the start-finish line and does indeed register a time, but it is not relative in comparison to the soft tyre times that we saw earlier on. A 1:15.761. May have lost a little bit of time due to the Alpine that was out in front of him, but nonetheless, I don't think he would have lost that much, Hayden.
Yeah, I think it would be difficult to say that you lost 3 seconds just from that Alpine blocking him, sadly, and it would have had to be even more to get himself out of Q1. That's a shame there for Danny Berezne. He, you know, usually runs well at this circuit, and it's just about being caught out, and maybe he was just caught napping, or maybe he was too cautious, maybe too passive with other drivers around him, and then let other drivers start their laps before he did. And sadly, he's at the back end of the field, and it's just massively cost him. And all those other drivers on the intermediates now, they're not really going to get that benefit of improving on their lap times. But it could be good for those guys to just get their eye in. Okay, how is the car going to feel differently around the circuit? Here's a replay of what happened with the Alpine, and they are ahead, but not close enough to really get in the way there of Danny Berezne on his hot lap, unfortunately. But he will definitely send that to the stewards and be like, look, he was in my way. I was blocked. and potentially there will be an investigation going on between those guys there. Thomas Ronhart opting to not really bother with any intermediate practice, but riding on board with Patrick Sipos again, another driver who's realised on his lap time, and he had a delta compared to Danny Berezne. He was able to compare his dry running in the slightly wet conditions compared to intermediate tyres in the damp conditions. So able to compare the two of those, and has quickly discovered that Patrick Sipos will not be able to improve on his lap time and has bailed and come into the pits as well.
Yeah. And Frederik Rasmussen making his way around the circuit now. This is a chance for the drivers just to get themselves immersed in these wet conditions. Because like we said, we spoke about mixed conditions, Hayden. We talk about it, so we're blue in the face, because this is very much what Brazil is all about. Not just the treacherous corners, the aggressive nature of it, and how it behaves when obviously cars are looking to go through certain sections, and certainly wheel to wheel when we go racing. When you add rain into that context, it throws a very different spin on the whole thing. It turns a track totally on its head. In a dry track, vastly different to a wet track, especially here at Brazil.
Certainly so. I would have definitely preferred if the gods out there could have made it the other way around. It started off very, very, very wet, and then it got drier throughout, because then come the end of the sessions, we were going to see drivers pushing, whereas at the moment, it's a bit of a down period. They're not going to be improving on their lap times, but it is important for those guys to, to test their systems. I know they've had that first lap there, but just to make sure that everything's working fine. But also, as you said, just to dial themselves in, get themselves into the rhythm, figure out where the braking reference points are going to be now in these intermediate conditions to set themselves up for Q2. Because Q2, it could be similar. It could be going straight into then heavy rain conditions, or maybe it will dry up. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. For now, looking at the radar, it's going from light rain to light rain. We've got 7 minutes still left on the clock for all of these drivers. But with the weather conditions in this scenario, going from dry to wet, it certainly has thrown a few things in there. Most importantly, I think we can guarantee drivers that are out of this session, Josh Edu, Barry Bromund, Patrick Sipos, Danny Berezne, and Ruben Pedreno. And 3 drivers from the top teams fighting in the championship are out in Q1. That gives a good opportunity for maybe some of those other teams that are trying to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry Bromand currently sat in the bottom 5, and we spoke obviously about how they managed to achieve that sensational pole position. Barry Bromand taking it in great style, but it's totally the opposite scenario here in Q1. He could be on the end of an exit, a premature exit, many would say, but it's down to the conditions change that we have had here at Brazil as we now ride on board with Wilson Hughes, who had his own fair share of challenges back at Mexico. But here this time at Brazil, sits right on the bubble in P15. And as it stands, will go through into Q2. So, you know, fortune favours perhaps the brave in this instance here, Hayden.
Certainly so. This will be really good for Wilson Hughes. You know, we could see how disappointed he was when chatting to Claire earlier on after his Q1 exit. So to, you know, get through into Q2. Yes, okay, might have just scraped in, but it's still important. It's still up to the driver to make sure you get that track position, to set yourself up best. But even then, you have to make sure you don't invalidate. You have to make sure you still get the lap time across, because if you don't, regardless of whether you were Joni Tormler up at the front, if he'd have made a mistake, he would have absolutely bottled it and thrown it all away. So it's still important, it still relies heavily on the driver to make sure they get themselves into Q2. And this is going to do wonders for his confidence, to get himself into Q2, you know, and then reset and be ready to go for that shootout to try and get in the top 10 later.
Yeah, Simon Weigang also looking to proceed into Q2 in his own right. 13th fastest will be enough. And that is both Aston Martins that are now in a bid to move through to the next session of qualifying, which puts them at an advantage over their rivals Alpine, certainly where they're currently stood in the championships. So great chance for Weigang, great chance for Donoso, who is in the top 10. As we have cautions in Sector 2, plenty of cars just jostling for position and track space, but also at the same time, Simon Weigang just running slowly with the rain light flashing on the back of the Aston Martin as he climbs the hill out of Junsao, and he'll make his way through past the Arquibancadas, but I think it's going to be a trip straight into the pit.
10 minutes left of
and certainly not concerned with going out.
Did you hear that?
10 minutes of
10
rain.
minutes left of rain. It is going to dry up, and we're going to be getting on the dry tyres most likely in Q2. That makes things exciting.
It does. Little spicy element.
Is it raining out on track though? Because is it raining out on track? I can't quite. No, it is.
It's light.
No, it is raining.
It's light rain.
As soon as he came into the pit, then you could just see the rain falling. It was difficult to see the rain when he was moving. Good to see Simon Weigang in the rig, because of course, event 2, we were midway through a race, and Simon, we looked over, and he just wasn't driving. He'd popped off to the toilet.
Yeah. Truly comical moment, I'm sure, that we'll look back and laugh on in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. All I saw was him coming back into the room, and he gave us a wave, and that was it. Amazing. What a character. Donning the similar Serge Gnabry look that he had back in our previous event.
I want to ask a question about this. So there's a lot of drivers with moustache.
Well, we alluded
a lot
that.
of facial features. Is this because this schedule is so hectic, and there's not a lot of time between event 2 and event 3, and they've been preparing so much that they just haven't had the time to shave, and this is just what it is. They've just been the hours in the sim are so important that, you know, taking that 10-15 minutes just to shave and make yourself nice and presentable is just too much time. Do you know what? That's my sim prep. I need to be on the sim doing that, so I'm not going to shave at all.
It might be that things have just got too stressful, that the hair is just transferred from their scalp and onto their face. I don't know. I mean, we could debate this for ages, but there's plenty of interesting facial hair on show here in this event, and also throughout the course of this season here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, much like Alpine as well. We've got a few goatees around. But yes, as it stands, with 3 minutes to go, Q1 about to come to an end. Joni Tormela, fastest here in this session with a 109.499, and clear of Alvaro Carreton in second. Great opportunity here for Tormela, because he hasn't had, should we say, his best season, has been mixing things up in various different championships, has returned home to the F1 Sim Racing World Championship once again, has never left. He's been part of it since the walls went up, and it's great to see him fastest.
Yeah, certainly so, and I think it's difficult being within the AlphaTauri team. Whilst you've got Red Bull, you've got 2 drivers who will race for you across the whole season, unless anything happens, like we saw at Williams' last event, where a driver fell, unfortunately, ill, and Will Lewis had to jump in last minute. But Red Bull, very strong 2-driver pairing. AlphaTauri, you know, being that junior team to Red Bull, they're not afraid to mix things up and try and give everyone the same opportunity. So they make sure throughout the whole season, each driver does as close to the same amount of races across the season. But the difficulty with that, because of chopping and changing and switching drivers in and out, if you're in form, you just had an amazing race, you might already be sitting out on the next one. But it does give you that opportunity to really focus and harness your practice at one specific circuit to give you the chance to get those better results. So it has its pros and cons for sure, and Joni Tormela has been in it for a while, so it is a strange scenario to have such an experienced driver with 2 rookies coming in, but I think that's also really good, because those guys can learn off of Joni Tormela. You know, he's had this experience before, being in a LAN event, what it's like to have that pressure of everybody looking at you, you know, in person, and distraction from cameras and lights, and people coming up to you going, I want an interview, you know, and they're like, I'm a bit busy at the moment, I'm racing, can you leave me alone? But Joni Tormela can help with that. He can help these guys to really get the best out of them.
Yeah. With all his experience that he has had in this series, without any shadow of a doubt, you're absolutely spot on. And whilst obviously they haven't been at their most competitive so far this campaign, they have obviously had some bright sparks of moments, certainly where Jed Norgrove's concerned. I mean, some brilliant defending back at Bahrain, some brilliant results as well. Looking ahead to Austria, where of course he did so well. And now once again featuring in the top 10. Looks like he's a surefire favourite to get through into Q2 anyway. And that means double representation for AlphaTauri. There is Ruben Pedreño, currently sits at the tail of the field, and obviously not able to post a lap that is comparable to those that were set on the softs earlier on. Just the wet nature of this circuit now has just caused a bit of a stir in terms of some drivers in their laps, and unfortunately, because he was at that tail end of the field, he wasn't able to run or certainly land the decisive blow that he was looking for in order to obtain a Q2 space. But now heading through in towards turn 1, Hayden, do you want to take us through this one?
We're going to get a lap here at the end of Q2, so let's ride on board with it through turn 2 and turn 3. Let's see what will happen here for Ruben Pedreño, because this isn't just a case of he's just going to have some fun. No, him and Danny Beresnay have both only set lap times on the intermediate tyres, so he could maybe, and I know it's only one position, but for pride, you can try and jump and pit Danny Beresnay a little bit squirmy on the exit there, but it is only slightly down on his previous best lap time, but he's found a lot of time there through the long right-hander. Don't run out wide. That was perfect. Right on the white line, not exceeding. It's 2 tenths found. Will that be enough? It's very close margins, I believe, between Dani Beresnay and Ruben Pedreño, only about 0.02 of a second. So this is looking good to try and put himself up into P19. It doesn't sound like a lot, but every position will count. Through the last sector now, coming into the last final proper corner. I know there's a couple of kinks, but this one's on the brakes, and then you've got to get it nice and tidy on the throttle and not let the car get away from you. 4 tenths up at the moment. It's looking good to try and get Dani Beresnay.
Yeah, coming up towards the line now. He'll be looking to try and at least improve on something that, of course, he enlisted earlier on the intermediate tyres. He comes up towards the line, does actually improve, goes 19th fastest ahead of Dani Beresnay. So, you know, at least it's another place gain. Beresnay, though, will take it back. P19 now for the Hungarian, a 1:15.036, just under 3 tenths faster than the time Ruben Pedreño was able to put in place. Josh Ido, though, and Barry Brumand, Dani Beresnay, some big names out of qualifying already here, Hayden. And may I add, all 3 constructors fighting in the Teams Championship.
They certainly are. This is huge for the Teams Championship and important for some of those teams, yeah, that are looking, maybe someone like Kick Sauber, who are trying to maybe try and catch these guys up. They have seen an opportunity where 3 drivers are out in Q1 and both of their drivers, 3rd and 4th, looking good. Glad that we had a little bit of a battle at the end there. Whilst it wasn't quite, you know, to secure yourself safety and get out of that bottom 5, you know, it's nice to see these drivers fighting for every single position, even if it's just for that little bit of pride between Dani Beresnay and Ruben Pedreño. They're going to be feeling a little bit hard done by, you know, Dani Beresnay, Josh Ido and Barry Brumand, especially after, you know, the strong performance in qualifying in Mexico. Be a dark world at the moment for them. Down at the bottom, but those are confirmation of our 5 drivers who are out of this Q1 at the moment.
Yeah, we'll take you through those. Those at the top, obviously, Joni Tommela going fastest, and I think in total of like just over 4.5 tenths of a second. So well done, Tommela. Going out early was the sensible choice. We saw many cars obviously fighting for that track space through the middle sector. Unfortunately, we did have to lose a few, and that, of course, the bottom 5 being Josh Ido, Barry Brumand, Patrick Schipos, Dani Beresnay, and Ruben Pedreño. So there you have it, folks. Though they will not be partaking in our Q2 session, and we'll move ahead to Interlagos very shortly. Yeah, drama. There's your eliminated drivers on the left-hand side of the screen as well, folks. But looking ahead to the next session, we've got a few names that we wouldn't necessarily expect to see, obviously making their way into Q2 here, Hayden. But that's what we love.
Yeah, Joni Tommela will be hoping that the session can just end here. You know, he's right at the top. He's currently got
Stop the count.
Exactly. You know, red flag it all. Barry Brumand, disappointment for him, you know, pole position in Mexico, and then it's just completely flipped.
Yeah.
And now he gets, though, to chat to Claire.
I'm not sure that's the positive that you really want to be talking to me right now, if I'm honest. Barry, the highs and lows of sim racing, of course, caught out there by the rain. What happened? Did you guys just not get out there quick enough when the rain started? Well, before the rain started, I guess?
No, actually, there is a thing that when you're driving for Ferrari, Red Bull, you're just going out later than people who are driving for Williams and like Kick and everyone. So this is really unfair in terms of these conditions, and we were just out of behind everyone. So you know, you cannot really pass everyone as well. And then when I started my lap, it was already rainy. So I couldn't do anything. Well, I genuinely don't know what to say. Well, I just could wish my teammate good luck, and hopefully he will just bring a good quali.
You know, I know it's not any consolation, I'm afraid, but there are other drivers that were caught out. Obviously, Mercedes with Dani Beresnay also starting actually behind you. Is there anything that you can do from the position you're in at a track like that?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to try my best. Of course, points scored in the races. Still, I will just try my best to see what I can do. But yeah, it's not ideal because I'm the type of person that I would really not take this as anything I could do, because if I was out in the pace in Q1, I would be really I would really disappointed at myself. But when this happens, I just can't control it. And I don't know, 5 races in a row, we have kind of the same scenarios, that Q2 and Q3 getting dry. Then Q1 out of nowhere, like start is rainy and then last time you have one shot, or now we had the opposite. I don't understand how this is only happening in the event. Never had it in the league race or anything, but it is what it is.
Okay, well, we've got to reset because we will have a race coming up soon where you do start at pole position. So big smiles for that one. Unlucky for this one, I'm afraid. Back to you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire, and a very matter-of-fact discussion, I think, obviously, as far as Barry Burman's concerned, but it just goes to show you can go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, and given the intense format, Hayden, that we obviously have here, in F1 sim racing this season, given, we got 5 races now this week over the course of, just 3 days, you can have your greatest moment. Obviously, with Barry, it's Mexico pole. He's out in Q1 here in Sao Paulo straight away after.
Yeah, and that's such a frustrating way round to receive that news. You probably prefer it to be the other way around. You have the disappointment in the first qualifying and then the excitement of the second one to be on pole, and then that will kind of spur you on for that first race later on that you would be starting further down. But instead it's the other way around that, yes, okay, Barry now goes into this race on the back of a bit of disappointment, and that's not really the best headspace to be in. So it's going to be all about in this break now to put yourself in the right mindset. I'm in pole position. Let's work out the strategy. Let's work together as a team, and let's try and score maximum points.
Yeah, and it's all about bouncing back, and I'm sure he will, or at least try to, in great fashion. But of course, we've got another session of qualifying to come. And of course, we witnessed light rain in the previous session. If I'm not mistaken, which turned my head, is actually looking like the rain might have ceased.
Yeah.
Just a damp track right now.
Mark Priestley, the in-game engineer, was right. It is drying up within 10 minutes, and it is going from light rain, so it is still wet out on track. And they're still opting for those intermediate tyres. Wilson Hughes deciding to be one of the first drivers out on track. Now, these lap times, they're going to be important to kind of get your eye and get yourself back into that rhythm.
Set the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Set the bar. And, of course, get that delta time that is always going to be green when you go on the soft tyres later on. But as it is drying up, we've still got, the whole Q2 session left to go. We're going to be pretty much in good position. DRS enabled. So that is your confirmation that it is time for the soft tyres. But these drivers, they all believe that they can get into Q3. They don't want to waste a set of soft tyres and want to have, 3 sets of soft tyres available to them in Q3 so they can really push for that extra point for pole position.
Yeah. Well, he's not the only one out on an out lap. Frederik Rasmussen's also out, but he has decided to go on the softs very early. Now, I would have thought that maybe some drivers might have wanted to hedge their bets for an initial run on the inters at least, and maybe save their slicks till later in the session, Hayden. I would imagine that's exactly why Wilson Hughes is doing it right now, just save the compounds.
Yeah, I mean, the soft tyres are still going to work great around here, but the track is going to evolve and it's going to develop. And, just like we see in the dry, that's kind of exaggerated, as you said. Wilson Hughes now into the box. Well, it was clear to see that it wasn't time for intermediate tyres, so there was no need to really set a lap time there. But Frederik Rasmussen taking his time on this warm-up lap, just to really build up as much temperature into tyres, but also wait for the track to get into those better conditions, allow the track to kind of dry off slightly and be as ready as it possibly can be for soft tyres. I do still think it is going to be getting better as this session goes on. We have seen it before. We're getting one of our first drivers to cross the line and start a lap, and it's going to be the Williams driver of Ismail Fassi. Now, Fassi did get knocked out in Q2, just on the cusp, was P11. It was either him or his teammate, Alvaro Caraton. Will Fassi be able to get himself through and into Q3 this time around? Will he be able to get into that top 10 shootout? We know how good he is in terms of race pace and battling with other drivers, but to give yourself that best opportunity for the race win, you're going to need to qualify higher up the order. As he's coming now into the second sector, a magnificent corner through here. You're on the throttle and it's such fine margins. You need to be right. Look at it, just the back end stepping out on you, and that's what you're dealing with. The rear is so unsettled. You have to be perfect on throttle to settle the rear of the car. Don't allow it to step out on you, because you need to ride that white line on the exit of the corner to then set yourself up for the first hairpin.
Yeah, you really can't. You can't take anything really with this track as such. It can punish you, no doubt. And we've just witnessed that from Ismail Fassi. And there is this ongoing battle, obviously, with some drivers. I'd imagine there's some split decisions throughout the entirety of this grid as to whether they apply more downforce or whether they go for a more straight line speed setup, because you have got quite a few straights around this track. But you've got to remember the technicalities of the middle sector as we take a look at the replay. Now, this was Fassi making his way around the Ferradura and then in towards the Larangina out of turn 7, in towards turn 8. That's where it all went wrong, going off track and invalidating the lap. There's Donoso, who is immediately, as you'd expect, gone purple in that middle sector. He won't, I'm sure there'll be many others, though, touting for that accolade as he now makes his way up towards the line. The Aston Martin with, well, one half of them at least anyway, because in comes his teammate Simon Weigang. Donoso to the top with a 109.041. In comes Simon Weigang across the line as well, and doesn't in fact set a lap just yet. He's going to go around heading in towards turn 1 this time around, potentially joining his teammate. Obviously still early days here in Q2, 10 minutes and 25 to go.
Yeah, it'd be very important for Aston Martin here to get a strong result in this qualifying session. They're in a fight at the moment, down at the back between them and Alpine. Alpine, terrible qualifying. You know, they're 18th and 20th, setting themselves up for the race later in Brazil. Aston Martin have a great opportunity to even just be on the cusp. If you're qualifying 11th and 12th, it gives you a great opportunity to maybe sneak a couple of positions in the race and you pick up a couple more points, and that will be enough to leapfrog the Alpine team. Simon Weigang, though, looking good so far on this lap. Onto the brakes in towards this right-hand hairpin. Keep it nice and tight. You don't want to ride the curb too much because it will unsettle the car, and the camber is, you know, it's a nice element of the track that can allow you to carry more speed through the corner as we go through the last corner now and heading down towards the line. Simon Weigang, purple through sector 2.
Yeah, heading up towards the line. Obviously join his teammate. Both Aston Martin's the only cars currently out on track. No, Weigang decides to come into the pit. So there we have it. Not looking to enlist his lap just yet, but Donoso has. So we've got an Aston Martin up at the front, and we're just awaiting the drivers to make their way out. No doubt waiting for those better, more optimal conditions here, Hayden.
Yeah, 109.04 is a great time. It sounds great, but these guys are the best of the best in F1. In F1 sim racing, and you know they're going to be setting such better lap times than what we have seen so far from Donoso. So while Simon Weigang was probably on a good lap there, the track is still developing, still evolving, and it's going to be all about getting that lap time in there. And you know, it's a good idea, to be fair to them, to get that initial run and then to bail out of the lap, because they've just gone from intermediate conditions. They've done a little bit of running. They weren't too sure what the Q2 session was going to be like. So again, it's just getting your eye in there. It's understanding, okay, now let's take my brain and take it away from intermediate driving and put it back into soft tyre driving. Where can I brake? How much speed can I carry through this corner? And that's what they would have been doing on those installation laps.
Very much goes hand in hand when you have, you know, a Jekyll and Hyde circumstance with the circuit. You're Jekyll and Hyde in terms of how you behave on certain compounds of tyre. So, you know, for instance, inters to softs. This time, Nicolas Longuet out on track. On his outlap, Ismail Fassi doing the same. Remember, we did see him invalidate a run that he was trying to put down earlier on. Joni Tormela as well out on track. They're all cascading out of the pit lane and making their way out onto the Sao Paulo circuit. 8 minutes left to go, so they should get 2 runs, including this one upcoming, before the end of the session. So Donoso's time, I'd imagine, will be a thing of the past once we see the rest of these times come in, because the track will improve as time goes on and also as rubber is laid down as well. But obviously Ferrari one-legged on this occasion. They're going to be placing all their eggs in the Nicolas Longuet basket here, Hayden.
And it's a good basket to put them in, because Nicolas Longuet has shown some unbelievable pace so far this season. You know, he was very disappointed with Zandvoort. You know, a race win that was deservedly, you could say, was in his hands. You know, he deserved that race when he had a fantastic race, and it was unfortunately taken away from him. So the pace certainly is there. And if there's someone you want to back, of course, it's going to be Nicolas Longuet. He's probably one of the fastest drivers out there over one lap. And he's going to be preparing himself to get underway. And it's going to be the first driver to get these really fast lap times in Q2. Now in much better, much drier conditions. Might not be the best conditions we see so far today. It might be slightly better later on at the end of Q2. Certainly better in Q3. But let's ride on board with Nicolas Longuet, with the Ferrari driver, as he heads into the first corner now. Prepare the car, keep it on the right, brake at the 50-meter board. Don't get on the grass on the outside, otherwise you throw your lap away at turn 1. Also through turn 2 and turn 3, don't get too greedy with track limits. because it's all going to fall away from you. DRS open and now heading down the back straight in towards turn 4. Breaking the 100-meter board, throw it through the left, hug the apex, you extend the corner, a little bit unsettled there, but able to keep it within the track limits and no invalidation just yet from Nicolas Longuet. Now throw it in through the right-hander. Can he keep it under control unlike Ismail Fassi? Yes, he can. Uses the exit curb and throws it in over the right. Not too greedy on the inside, but now keep it nice and tight. Be patient on the throttle. Wait for the car to be able to go through that corner and then back on the throttle. Now get it through the right, hooked up, use the camber to carry as much speed as possible. Now keep it tight on the left as you prepare yourself for the final corner. Very important corner. Muck this one up and you're going to be hurting all the way down towards the line. It's looking good though so far from Nicolas Longuet.
It certainly is. Winner here 2 seasons ago. Nicolas Longuet looking to propel Ferrari forward. The only time currently listed, as I said, Fabrizio Donoso holding onto it right now. In goes Longuet, 107.143, dwarfs the time that was set by Fabrizio Donoso as in comes Caraton, who goes just around a tenth of a second, nearly a tenth of a second in behind. Jed Norgrove with a 107.137. The track certainly ramping up as now Ulas Nazilrim sets his time. Frederik Rasmussen going third fastest. In comes Wilson Hughes. The Scottish counterpart of Lucas Blakely goes in behind his teammate Alfie Butcher, splits the papaya pair and goes into P6. In comes Simon Weigang as well after getting through into Q2 in itself. He makes it through to P6 up in the top 10. In comes Jarno Opmeer. He goes 5th, just ahead of Lucas Blakely, a 107 on his part, and Thomas Ronhaar now takes the top time, a 107.034, and goes faster than Jed Norgrove, who's relegated to second, but take nothing away from Norgrove. That was a fantastic lap.
Great lap. Fabrizio Donoso there with an invalidation, and that unfortunately means he cannot improve on his lap time he did earlier in those slightly wet conditions. Ismail Fassi and Brendan Lee, no lap time set from those guys. They are out on track, so I believe that must have been an invalidation from both of them as well, sadly. But it's important still to finish your lap time, because then not only do you have a delta that you can compare against, but you can also look at your sector times when you go to Race Director to then see and compare yourself to the other drivers. Okay, he's a little bit quicker than me in Sector 1. I'm a bit quicker in Sector 2. He must be running maybe a little bit lower downforce compared to me. What do I need to do in these corners to be able to, one-up my rival? But there is the guy currently sitting at the top of the field. Good qualifying session from him in Mexico. P4 on the grid for that race. Thomas Ronhaar, though, at the top in Q2, but it's not done yet. We've still got another set of laps to go in Q2 for the shootout of the top 10. And then, of course, it's that hunt for the pole position point.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhaar qualified second row of the grid at Mexico alongside Nicolas Longuet. Longuet currently split between he and Ronhaar. Jed Norgrove occupying the place in between in second as Ronhaar makes his way into the pit. And we'll get ready for one final run, you'd fathom. 3 minutes and 30 to go now. And they'll have to urgently get a new set of tyres on, get prepped, ready for the final runs here in Q2. Still all to play for. Anything can happen. There'll be plenty, I'm sure, that'll change. 2 places of note that probably will change. Ismail Fassi and Brendan Lee. No way are they going to be staying without a lap enlisted, a valid lap enlisted, at least on this timing tower. Brendan Lee just a little squint as he looks to get set. I can imagine, though, the tension still very much there.
Yeah, it puts you on the back foot, though, because you've invalidated once. It's all about this one lap time, and it's all down to the mentality of the driver. Now, someone like Thomas Ronhaar, as we have seen before, will invalidate, and it will not matter to him at all. He doesn't care. He will still push as hard as he possibly can to put himself up at the front. Whereas maybe some of the other drivers, he's so calm, gives us a thumbs up there. But some of the other drivers could maybe drive slightly cautiously to make sure that they don't invalidate on their second run. And if they leave a few tenths on the table, that's still going to keep you out of Q3. So it's important to get in the mindset, be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to push. And whatever happens, happens. If I get knocked out of Q2, at least I went for it. At least I pushed it.
Well, in comparison, the track temperature has gone up another 2 degrees. We're now up to 30 degrees out on track. It was 28 before. So who knows? We'll look forward to seeing how this improves the lap times, as well as how the drivers can improve it in their own right. Longuet currently sat P3. Be hoping that he can push his Ferrari to greater success to align with his teammates' exploits from Mexico City. Ronhaar retiring already, not concerned about his time right now. Obviously believes that he is a surefire favourite to make his way into Q3. He's got good reason to be as well. Jed Norgrove, he's not taking any chances. He wants to ensure his spot. And Joni Tormela not too far away either. You just have a look in that bottom end of the top 10. Wilson Hughes there with a 107.368. But Tormela's not far away. If you factor this in, it's only a mere 900ths really between them of the realm. In fact, less than that if you look at it on paper. So very, very tight indeed. All Joni Tormela needs to do is find some crucial tenths, some crucial thousands, some crucial hundredths to make that difference. And ever the experienced racer, knows exactly what it's like to race in a LAN environment. Let's see whether he can rein something in for AlphaTauri. The team from Faenza will be looking to boast 2 drivers heading into Q3. It all comes down, though, to this lap, Hayden.
Let's ride on board with the experienced Joni Tormela in the AlphaTauri and see if they can make it into Q3, into the top 10 shootout, braking just after the 50-meter board, really hugged the apex through turn 2 and through turn 1 and turn 2, and then nice and tight on turn 3 as well. Slightly down on his lap time so far, but it looks like a good exit as he's gaining time all the way down in towards turn 4. Will brake at the 100-meter board, really hug the inside of turn 4, and again, a good exit this time around, and that's gained him lap time. That's 300ths of a second above on his lap time. Now going to 400ths. Now through the corner where Fassi lost it. Can he keep it together? Yes, he can. Uses all the exit curb right on the white line. Nice and tidy on that first hairpin, and now keep it tidy again on the left-hand hairpin as well. 1/10 improvement so far from Tormela. That keeps on going up. He is finding time all the way around this circuit at the moment. Nicolas Longuet slightly up ahead of him. He's going to be the first driver to set our fastest lap time here in Q2. Let's see what they can do. But Joni Tormela now through the final corners, looking good so far. It is currently a 3/10 improvement, and that could be enough to get himself into Q3.
Yeah, coming past the Archiban Cardas, we did allude to Longuet, obviously looking to make his way across the line to register his final flying lap here in Q2. Tormela will as well, and will make his way through to P4, just in behind his teammate Jed Norgrove. Longuet remaining second fastest. We got Ulas Ozyildirim. He goes 4th, so goes ahead of Joni Tormela. Fassi, enough for 6th place. Enter now Simon Weigang, who goes 2nd. Fabulous time for the Aston Martin. Alfie Butcher remaining in 5th. Caraton up to 5th as well. We got plenty more to come. Rasmussen up to 8th. I tell you what, some shocks could be on hand here. Wilson Hughes is out. Enter Brendan Lee. He's out as well. Lucas Blakely up to 6th. 2 left to go. Denoso on the bubble in 11th spot. And Jarno Opmeer making his way towards the line. He's out of qualifying. 14th place for the Flying Dutchman.
Disappointment there for them, but a great lap from Simon Weigang in the Aston Martin, and that is crucial for him, and also in that fight down at the back end of the Constructors' Championship. He tweeted a lot about Event 2, how it always got away from him in Q1. He was always missing out by such fine margins, whether it was just like a 1,000th of a second, the difference between getting out of Q1 and into Q2. This 22. Is very important. 22 thousandths a second, the difference between him and P1. But he won't care too much about that at this stage because the fight for pole isn't yet. It is important that he got himself into Q3. And look at the fine margins. Just over a 1/10 of a second. And you're out of Q2 there. That is incredible.
He's someone who likes to go to the gym, but he's flexing the delta muscle here in Q2. Fabulous work from Simon Weigang. Just ahead of Nicolas Longuet in that instance, Jed Norgrove. We've got to talk about AlphaTauri as well. I mean, a fantastic performance. Both cars into Q3. Joni Tormela up there after getting through. Obviously, the rain helped him in the first session, but I can tell you that Claire Cottingham is standing by with Jarno Opmeer.
I am indeed. Not Mercedes' session in general. Obviously, your teammate Danny had the issues with the rain coming down too soon and was knocked out of the first part of qualifying, and now here you are, just not going into the final part. How are we feeling?
Yeah, not great, of course. I've been struggling with PC issues all day, so it's really hard to do qualifying laps when your screen stops every two seconds. It was fine in Q1 for some reason, but I think maybe the PC started overheating again for Q2. And yeah, from the first lap onwards, it was already really hard to kind of not make any mistakes because the screen keeps stopping. But yeah, it's frustrating. I felt like Brazil and Mexico were really strong at, but now we're starting P8, P14, and P9 and P20 or P19. So yeah, it's not been ideal, but yeah, it is what it is.
Still all to play for in the race, though.
Yeah, of course. Brazil's a little bit harder to overtake than Mexico, probably. But
yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how it all pans out. It's probably going to be quite chaotic, as we've seen last event. So anything can still happen. But yeah, I hope for then my PC issues will get fixed. So.
We hope so too. Hopefully not too chaotic as well out there for you. Let's see who's on pole position.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. Truly a fascinating session. The conditions now have improved greatly after the first 2 sessions. Obviously, we had that initial bout of damp track, a little bit of dampness at the start of Q2, obviously after the light rain in Q1, but things vastly different heading through to Q3. Just goes to show how much it can potentially change. And speaking of change, look at this grid, or certainly this lineup we have in Q3. You know, I mean, you got to give credit to AlphaTauri. They haven't had it easy, I would say, and Norgrove has been definitely one of the surprise packages, I think, at AlphaTauri, but he's joined now by his teammates, and in his own right, Joni Sormuller has had his own struggles this season, but this is exactly what he needs.
Yeah, certainly so for both those drivers. And, you know, it's important for those guys just to show the Red Bull team that, hey, you know, we are improving, we are working on our performances. You know, sometimes we might make a mistake, but do you know what? You learn from those mistakes. If there's a driver out there who's too scared to make mistakes, they're never going to learn, they're never going to get better. And of course, that's what the AlphaTauri team is all about. It's about nurturing young talent, nurturing rookies coming in, and of course, trying to improve them to basically shape them into another Frederik Rasmussen, another Josh Edu, because they are, you know, okay, Josh is out of this session today, but was caught out by wet weather, but had a very strong qualifying in Mexico, and they're fighting for the Constructors' Championship. And, you know, Red Bull being one of the most successful teams in this series. So for those guys, it's all about making sure they're ready for the next generation.
We've got to talk about as well how much this has had an effect on Frederik Rasmussen. This has helped him in many ways, because Barry not being in Q2 due to being out in Q1. Here comes Ron Hart to set the initial lap of the session, a 106.889, just to get the ball rolling here this time around. The Spaniard Alvaro Carreton currently sat in second for Williams on the timer screen, so yet to initialize a lap though to get his session underway. 8:34 here to go. The Williams now strides up towards the line and sets a 107.383. No necessary concerns about setting faster runs here. Of course, they could just slap on those used tyres and get themselves ready for a faster run deeper into the session, Hayden.
Yeah, but someone like Thomas Ronhaar, of course, he retired at the end of Q2, didn't bother going out for that final run, had an extra set of soft tyres available to him, and is flexing that right now into the 106s, the first driver to pop up into the 106s. That's a 106.8, whereas, you know, someone like Alvaro Carreton, I think it's quite clear to see that they are running on a used set of soft tyres, you know, 107.3, but we'll have those soft tyres ready to them. There's drivers on outlaps at the moment. They're going to get about 2 runs in. I think from everybody right now, we're going to be looking at fresh set of tyres, you know, the fastest laps that they can possibly do, get that banker lap in, and then really go for it at the end of this qualifying session when they're all fighting it out for pole position. This is a great result from this guy here, Julas Ozildirim. You know, he's not necessarily been at the top in qualifying. I think there's been a mixed bag of performances so far this season. But again, a rookie just like Alfie Butcher, that's not the end of the world if he is, you know, still finding his feet. You know, learn from these experiences to make yourself a better driver. And he certainly showed the team that he's prepared to be a team player as well. You know, that fantastic defense that helped Alfie Butcher get that race win in Austria. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how his career develops in Event 3. Has he learned from those mistakes in Event 2? And can they continue to play that team game? And maybe, you know, Alfie Butcher finds himself in a situation where he's on the opposite end and he helps out Julas to get a race win. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I honestly think that has been Julas Ozildirim's season so far. It's been all about the teamwork, the team ethic, and I think it has to do that extremely well. I mean, we saw it last season with the likes of Matthias van Erven as well, alongside Thomas Ronhaar. They worked together, but Matthias was very much supporting Thomas in getting the great results that he achieved last season. But we've got now drivers commencing their fast runs. Nicolas Longuet, one of them. Simon Weigang joining him too. Now, Simon will take a lot of solace. He's had his own troubles. You know, recent seasons haven't necessarily gone to plan for Simon Weigang since entering the pro draft back with Renault back in the day. Remember his teammates being Fabrizio Donoso as well as Jarno Otby. I mean, what a squadron that was all the way back then. Or should I say not Fabrizio Donoso, Cedric Tomei it was back then. But you know, nonetheless, he's come back in, and I tell you what, a time like that, 22 thousandths off the top against Thomas Ronhaar. Appreciate, obviously, it's not Q3, but it sends a clear message, right?
Certainly so, but very important point. He now needs to back it up in this Q3 session. There's no point, being second fastest in Q2 and then being 10th in Q3 because you're still on that cusp of somebody just getting a good overtake on you. Maybe Jarno Opmeer with some strategy and you're out of the points and you've scored nothing for Aston Martin. So it's important for him to back up here in Q3 as we're watching. Nicolas Longuet is going to get one of the first laps in.
Yeah, heading up towards the line. Here comes the Frenchman. Nicolas Longuet looking to bounce back after his downfall. It's done so brilliantly. Second fastest so far, 106.977. Lucas Blakely up towards the line, goes third fastest, just ahead of Simon Weigang, who sets a 107.052. Frederik Rasmussen goes third, topples Blakely down slightly. Jed Norgrove now making his way past the Archibank Cardis, but he will make his way up towards the line. Will he ascend, as he has done through the course of this season? Goes fifth fastest. Good lap to get things underway for Jed Norgrove. Tourmaler goes into 7th with Simon Weigang splitting the two AlphaTauris. Not a bad start for AlphaTauri, setting the bar 5th and 7th, and with time left still to go, a reasonable delta laid down. Thomas Ronhaar about to get, I believe, his final lap underway.
I reckon he'll still have time for another lap. It might be close, but I'm sure, those guys in the engineering seats have got it spot on. I've been giving a look over there that's like, don't worry, we know what we're doing. We've got this all under control. And Thomas Ronhaar's going to be starting his second lap. Of course, he's utilising those extra set of soft tyres that he has, so it's important to get those 3 laps in. There's no point saving those tyres.
It's a thumbs up from Seb, by the way. It's a thumbs up.
It's a thumbs up from Seb. Okay, we've got enough time in. Someone who might not, though, Alvaro Carreton. He was another driver that went earlier, went on an old set of soft tyres, but then didn't get in the mix with the other drivers when they had that second lap in. So Alvaro Carreton, whether he had 2 sets of soft tyres available to him because of these changeable conditions, it'll be interesting to see whether he has utilised them or not. But currently at the back of the field, hasn't gone out and will be only able to go for that final run at the end of this session. Thomas Ronhaar, though, currently looking good. It's still an improvement on his lap time, and what a lap time he's put in so far. Slightly off there, and that's going to cost him as well, and it's going to be down his lap time now. 0.02 of a second difference, but if he has a good last corner, he could gain it back.
Yeah, he certainly does. He is right on the edge, but getting a nice exit out of Junsao. He's going to try and keep the car tight in order to extract as much delta as possible. It's literally flat on zero. He comes straight in, no doubt looking to try and lay down one more lap. He will definitely have time now, no less, to set his final run here in qualifying. The shootout very much in full swing, and many cars will be looking to venture their way out very shortly. All quiet in the pit lane right now, but as the timer ticks down, we've got 3 minutes and 10, and they'll all be heading out.
I wanted to see him finish that lap time because I think he might have set the exact same lap time as his current best.
It was 0,
beat it or lost it by 1,000th of a second. Talk about consistency. Great lap there from Thomas Ronhaar, and done it nearly twice as well. Into the pits. I'm not sure. I know we got the thumbs up, and I don't want to doubt the engineers, okay, because they do a fantastic job. But I would have been very anxious if I was Thomas Ronhaar.
Are you doubting Seb Kowalski?
I'm not doubting, but as a driver, I would have been like, are you sure on that in-lap? Are you sure we're going to have enough time? Because, just over a minute, it was about 3 minutes 15 remaining in that session. You're coming into the pit lane. What if you came into the pit lane as Brendan Lee wanted to come out? You hold him up, and then both of you missed out on it. So it's important, especially as he wasn't improving massively. It might have been by 1,000th of a second as we're watching Thomas Ronhaar, and I think this is where he gained a bit of lap time, but then it kind of fell away from him slightly just on the exit, just maybe took a little bit too much curb on the exit. He did find time, but just not enough, and then of course was gaining it. And here, it was just matching. It was just like flicking between red and green, but it was literally 0, 0, 0, 0. So, yeah, it would have been exactly the same. No need to set that lap time, realistically. Get back in the box, get the new set of tyres on, go for it.
Perhaps slightly compromised heading over Junsao. Just like you say, overstretching that little bit. But, hey, I think there's definitely positives. I mean, he knows that he can obtain more. He's just actually exited the pit lane just now. I honestly believe it would have been tight, if I'm honest, for him to come back in. So maybe they're just trying to avoid any risk of losing out.
Yeah, I mean, he was literally matching his own lap time. There was no need to risk it at all. Had he been maybe 2 tenths up, what a lap that would have been, by the way. But had he been 2 tenths up, you're like, no, you finish the lap and we'll deal with that later if we don't make it. But Thomas Ronhaar, he's on the back of this kind of train that's making their way through the midsection at the moment. Lucas Blakely is going to be our first driver to set a lap time here in qualifying. And I think there's a lot of drivers who are going to be shooting out for this pole position.
Yeah, I think so. Blakely will want to be one of them. coming into this one. Obviously, we know he is the reigning champion, but he's also 4 times a pole sitter as well. So he'll be looking to try and add to that number and effectively try and chase his first win of the season. Sounds crazy that we're saying that. Obviously went close at Spa against his former teammate, Barry Brumand, because it was Barry who was successful in that tussle. Went back-to-back in terms of taking victories at Spa. As now Blakely heads through in towards turn 1 at the centre S's. Hayden, take us through.
We're in the end game now. This is the fight for that pole position point. Who's going to take it? Lucas Blakely right on board as he navigates his way through the first section of corners. Now hard on the brakes of the 100-meter board. Ride the curb, really attack it on the inside. Don't leave any margin on the outside of the corner. Carry as much speed as possible. He's currently improving. He's 200ths up on his previous best lap time. Now really ride the inside as much as possible. Let the car run out wide, carry the speed and throw it through the first hairpin. Slightly wide of the apex, left a little bit of time on the tables and maybe a bit too tight on the entry in towards that left-hander there. Now get it set up. Use the camber, not too much curb. I think that was nice and tidy, and it is. It's a 5/10th improvement, a 500th improvement on his lap so far. But it's all about this final corner. Can he get it right? Can he navigate the exit? Yes, he can. 700ths up. Make that 800ths.
Yeah, coming out of that second sector, he went purple in that instance and has found more time. Coming out of Junsao, heading up through towards the line now. What can Blakely provide? Team Papaya heads up towards the line. He does go second fastest. Nicholas Longue, he'll make his way towards the line. Trumps there. Lucas Blakely goes second. In comes Jed Norgrove. He stays fifth. Alvaro Caraton goes fourth. The Williams now moves up with the Aston Martin. Simon Weigang back again with his own 106. Goes second fastest. Elfie Butcher up to sixth. Frederik Rasmussen topples Weigang and takes second place in his own right. Front row of the grid once again on offer here for Frederik Rasmussen, but Thomas Ronhaar fastest here at Brazil.
It was all about that first lap for Thomas Ronhaar. That was enough to put himself on pole position. He didn't even need the other 2 laps. I looked over at him whilst everybody else crossed the line. He was already cheering his pole position before he'd even crossed the line. He knew he had it in the bag, but what a lap from Simon Weigang. He was very down in that second event. You know, qualifying always just kind of slipped away from him. But now he's got himself into Q2 and he's like, do you know what? I have pace. Let me show it. And he certainly has done. P3 in qualifying. And I'm sure those margins were so close. Frederik Rasmussen, though, championship leader on the hunt. No matter who it is at the top, whichever one of his championship rivals is up there, he doesn't care. He's ready. He's sitting in second position and he's going to be pouncing in a good position to try and fight for the race win later on, of course. Nicholas Longue, the one Ferrari as well, P4 in this session. Reigning champion, though, Lucas Blakely, P5. It's not really been Lucas's season, has it, so far?
No, really has been a tough one for him. And the problem he's got now, I mean, obviously he's got Longue, Weigang even in many ways. I think he's going to be a tough competitor off the back of that. I mean, third fastest. Was second for a brief moment until Freddie Rasmussen came along. I bet he's going to want to give Freddie a big kick after that. But yeah, Thomas Ronhaar again. You know, he's bounced back, isn't he, fully, I think, off the back of event 2. Quali-wise, definitely. But we can go into the paddock with Claire Cottingham.
Yep, come down here to speak to Mr. Thomas Ronhaar. Congratulations. You said to me at the beginning of yesterday actually, you said to me you really wanted to have a strong couple of days, and I think pole position is a pretty good place to start.
Yes, especially to get pole, even with my banker lap, is something I didn't expect, especially on this track. I didn't think my pace was too great around there, knowing my pace on the other tracks, but I guess it turned out to be better than I thought it would be, and to get 1 point already is a very good start.
Seemed like Kick F1 made some great choices as well. Both you and your teammate tapped out quite early, knowing that the rain wasn't going to get any better in the first part of qualifying. And then to go out so early and set that fastest time, it seemed like you had some really good communication with yourself and your engineer.
Yeah, I told him, just be, very focused on what can happen in Q1. Like Mexico is the same thing. It can rain any moment. Turned out to be the case where it started raining pretty much when we started the laps. So we had to get a move on and get track position. I think if I look back at it, I think Jarno was right at the end of the queue, but he was very smart and, he didn't warm up his tires at all pretty much. And got, I think, ahead of me, which at the end helped him. So, yeah, great choice by the team. And, we were definitely on point today.
How important was it to come into this third event on top? I mean, pole position, we need to win the race still, especially off the back of the way that Event 2 ended.
Yeah, no, especially like the day 1 of Event 2 was amazing, got P2 twice. But yeah, in the last 4 races, I scored 5 points only. There's a lot of people that ups and downs. I'm not only myself. So yeah, I just have to keep focused, do what I do best, which is driving, and yeah, can't wait for the coming races.
Coming races are coming very shortly. Congratulations, it's pole position today for you. Guys, back to you.
Thank you so much, Claire. Well, there we have it. Qualifying done and dusted for day 1. Thomas Ronhaar. Were you guys expecting that?
I mean, he's always one of the quickest drivers over 1 lap, of course, but to do it in that first lap in qualifying, like he did improve on his final one, but he didn't need to. It was enough to get pole position. So fantastic performance, and I mean, he wasn't maybe one of my picks for pole position. Barry's definitely one of the other drivers in form, but you can never not count him in that fight at the front.
And it seemed like the team were confident throughout the whole of Q3 there, as we saw that first lap was good enough. The engineer giving us a thumbs up when we were doubting and wondering about the strategy. They just knew they had it.
Yeah, they did. I think they were just, like you say, confidence, I think, is a massive deal. But, you know, with Thomas Ronhaar coming off the difficulties we allude to, Event 2 and his struggles, I mean, this is how you bounce back. I mean, after the second row visit at Mexico City, following it up with pole position, arguably one of the most consistent players so far here in qualifying this event so far. So, you know, keep it up. That's brilliant. Freddie as well, huge boon going his way, front row of the grid, and all his title competitors losing out in Q1 and Q2.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of those big hitters that we lost there. Marcel, we lost quite a few big names in Q2 and Q1. Where does that leave them?
Honestly, I'm a bit afraid for just how tight everything was, especially after Mexico, when we saw that Bari is back on top and Freddie right behind. These two are actively fighting for the championship. Jan Ottmer still in the mix, also in a decent position for Mexico, not in the best, but we know he's super quick. And now in Brazil, everything seems to fall towards Red Bull and Freddie's way. I mean, Josh was out as well, which was a shocker, but he was also a victim to the weather because it was so unpredictable. If you were first on track, you would be through, no matter what. Like, you just don't need to make any mistakes and you would be through. It's just by the order. And that's also what we could see. But now we have Bari out in Q1. And we have also Ottmer out in Q2 in the dry, in P14. Both of them so far away from points. We really need a weather miracle to see anything there. And then we have Thomas Ronhaar with kind of like the biggest flex that you can do in F1 esports by not having any rivals aside from yourself. So he's beating his own lap time and nobody is able to match him. It was a great quali, but Freddie is, I think now he just has to drive it safely home and he's in a good position. I think this is the best position Freddie has ever been in, so yeah.
Yeah, he is looking like he is set to increase that lead. Of course, he gets a point for, of course, he would have got a point rather for getting pole position, missing out on that point, but lining himself up for the big points when it comes to the races later today. I believe that Claire has managed to get hold of another interview from a driver who definitely outperformed what we may have been expecting. Claire, who have you found?
Yeah, alongside me is Simon Weigang. Simon, well, that was pretty impressive. We had a struggle in Event 2, but this was a pure performance. You must be elated with that lap.
Yes. Obviously, myself, I knew I can do that. But when you have an event like the last one, it's kind of tough to say before this one, so it kind of looks a bit weird. So I just kept my head down, and if every setting is as I want it to be, and I put in the time, I think I can do those performances for sure.
So you're not surprised at all that you were so confident around a track like this?
I was, but more so because I had those practice performances already last one, and I just finished the lap and I looked up and it was last, and now I look up at the second or third. I still have to figure out why. So, yeah.
Always data to go through, always ways to improve. Yeah, just at the end you were knocked off second and into third. But that is not a bad place to be starting the race from.
No, you can see maybe on my onboard I made a massive mistake. Last corner in sector 2, and it was still enough for third as well. I don't know. Yeah, obviously it's a good feeling. Better than P16 and quali 1.
Yeah, that is definitely a better feeling than that. 2 races coming up. How confident are we feeling?
Very around Qatar, not so much around Vegas, but then we have to see. Vegas is not so much a quali track anyway, it's more in the race. And then Qatar, we should be fine, but obviously saying it is one thing and then doing it another, so I hope it goes well.
Simon, congratulations. Let's head back to Marcel, who I think is going to be looking at some more analyzing? Not a word, analysis.
Thank you very much. Yes, so there were a few moments in qualifying, especially, of course, in Quali 1, where we had the dramatic rainfall and a lot of drivers getting it right. And we had one driver that suffered a lot from it, and this is the onboard with Dani Beresney. I want you to pay attention to the steering wheel. As you can already see, he has big snaps there of oversteer. He's fighting. He's in the dirt here also of Josh, because everyone was just trying to get the lap in as quickly as possible. There was no time to go for a clean air gap. You had to send it right away, or else there was no chance at all. But you can see he's struggling so hard with getting the power down, getting the brakes fully to work. You can't 100% go on the brakes because it's already locking. You can see he's sliding a lot because the rear is stepping out. Then again, here he's just trying to get the throttle down, but he has to adjust it and be very patient. And another snap on the steering wheel. I think here he will probably lose it again. Yeah, another snap. So always corrections. And this is what a lot of drivers like Bari and Dani Beresney also suffered from. And in the end, these kind of moments, they either make or break your championship. And this is why it's so crucial to get it right as a team and as a driver as well. Sometimes you have to just listen to your gut feeling, and you can see it was not good enough. He knew already this is not it, and he went to the pits. And yeah, so now we are on board with Thomas Ronner. So into turn 1, he's braking hard, super smooth on the steering wheel, down to 4th gear, accelerating already full throttle between 1 and 2, now staying tight because this is the fastest line on the track. Opening the DRS, and now we are looking at the end of sector 1 already. Hard braking at the 100-meter board for him, down into 5th or 4th gear. He prefers 5th gear, super close on the track limits there. That is perfection. And now he's staying wide to open up the double right-hander inside apex, another one, and braking hard. Now clipping the inside super close to the grass there. Also, I think he will run the inside curb here as well to rotate the car, and already like 90% on the throttle mid-corner. Super, super aggressive, but always in control. There was a little bit of adjustment on the throttle. Now staying tight again to complete sector 2. Final braking zone, very hard on the brakes, but he's also always smooth on the brakes, similar to what you can see from Frederik Rasmussen. And now it's just flat out run down to the line. And of course, this is an improvement on his already pole lap, so this is the fastest one. And yeah, amazing job from Thomas. Beautiful qualifying, and yeah, this was something to look out for. I mean, Thomas is a super, super quick guy over 1 lap, and I think we all know that. He showed it again, and like I mentioned, it's just, that is a proper flex. If you don't have any competitors technically, even though it's so close, it was still close, but Thomas was just fighting himself. That is remarkable, honestly.
Remarkable indeed. Thank you so much for that, Marcel. Lovely having you take us through those replays. Right, all that's left is to see what our starting grid is going to look like. Guys, take us through our starting grid for Brazil.
Why not? Let's have a look at how we're going to be rolling up for Brazil. Dani Beresney and Ruben Pedreño. Unfortunately, the 2 drivers unable to get a lap time on the softs early on those changeable conditions, and they're at the back of the grid. Barry Bromand, championship contender. He's going to need a miracle to try and fight for some good points here, with Patrick Sipos in the Alpine in 18th position. A little bit further up, 2-time champion Brendan Lee got caught out by the weather as well. No, he didn't, sorry, he made it. Josh Edu got caught out by the weather. He's P16 in this race, with Brendan Lee in 15th. Further up in the field, Wilson Hughes will be happy to get into Q2, but still 13th is not really what he would be wanting to start the race from. But Jarno Opmeer, another championship contender, struggling in qualifying, 14th, but he'll pull out the strategy and surely put himself nearer the front. Fasti, 12th, 1 place lower than where he positioned himself for Mexico, with Fabrizio Donoso, one of the Aston Martins, in 11th position.
Yeah, vastly different complexion in Q3, wasn't it? Ulas Isildirim starting P10, Jed Norgrove 9th on the grid. Moving up into P8, Joni Tormala, another visit, fast visit as well. Very, very chuffed for him. Alfie Butcher as well, up into 7th place. Consistent performer here for the Haas team. Moving into 6th, Alvaro Caraton in 6th place with Lucas Blakely, who no doubt wanted more from that final shootout session. We saw the disappointment on his face. Nicholas Longue with another visit on the 2nd row of the grid. Simon Weigang punching the Delta. Beast is back, 3rd place and 2nd row on the grid. Frederik Rasmussen, though, on the front row in 2nd, with Thomas Ronhaar, as Marcel Kiefer said. What a lap. simply perfect. Perfection has brought him pole position here at Sao Paulo.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for taking us through that qualifying. Thank you to Claire as well for all of the interviews. Congratulations to both our pole sitters, Barry Boremund and Thomas Ronhart. We are going to go for a break. We'll be back at 5 p.m. and when we come back, we go racing. Make sure to join us then. I cannot wait. We'll be out at Mexico City and Sao Paulo to see whether our pole sitters can convert it to victory. Don't miss it.